probably the gravest mistake that a real estate investor can make is you do some deals, you do some flips, then you take your own capital and then you reinvest it. I think it's the worst way to get rich ever.
Land has trillions of dollars of dead equity. It's dead.
This is probably the gravest mistake that a real estate investor can make is you do some deals, you do some flips, then you take your own capital and then you reinvest it. I think it's the worst way to get rich ever.
Land has trillions of dollars of dead equity. It's dead.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Daniel Martinez and Anthony Gona with Hivemind, and they flew in from San Antonio, Texas to talk about why land is the best investment. It's a pretty bold claim, so we'll see where this goes. Guys, I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. The information on the show alone is enough to help you become a millionaire. In the next 5 to 7 years, you'll take consistent action. You will become one. Guys, if you get value out of the show, please hit that subscribe button. Stop keeping us a secret. That way we can help and grow more people together. You guys ready?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So start with you, Daniel. What was life like right before you got into real estate?
Oh man, I was a truck driver. So that's actually how we met. So we met September 2019. I drove a truck out here to come to your first sales trainings.
Yeah.
And so it's been an interesting journey being here, full circle, 4.5 years later. So it's interesting. I'm excited.
I still remember you driving the truck all the way out from Atlanta, right?
I was probably as my only one that's done that.
You're the only one that drove a semi across the country. I don't know how many drove across the country, but you're definitely the only one that drove an actual truck across the country, because I still remember you were out there as me, you, Pace.
Yep.
Right. I think Stratton might have been there.
Yep.
But we had a couple people that came for a live sales training.
Yep.
And we all took a picture next to your semi.
I don't have that picture. I was actually trying to hopefully put it on the podcast. Maybe they'll find it and put it on later.
Oh,
I don't have it. I only have a picture of me, Pace, and Eric Sage.
yeah. So we might have to hit up Pace, because I think Pace is the one that took the picture.
Also, there it is.
Yeah.
I don't have it.
So we have proof if we can get it.
Did it happen?
Yeah. But I still remember, right? Guys, like, Pace and I, we did our, 5 a.m. runs, and only a handful of people did it. And you drove a truck across the country.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I drove to the park.
Yeah, you drove to the park.
I took like three parking spots, and I mentioned the park at 5 a.m.
A lot of parking.
Well, because
There.
I'm not a morning person, and since I was on the East Coast at that time, I was like, hey, I might as well go to the park. And I was with the fat boys at the back of the line, because everybody's running the mile. Like all the skinny guys are all running, and I'm like, I'm gonna stick with the fat boys because I'm out of breath.
Yeah, we did break out into separate groups. I think you were with, no offense here. I think you were with Bryant's,
Yeah.
right? At that time. So,
Funny.
or maybe it was Brandon Simmons. I remember.
It was both of them.
There you go. Perfect. And then, but you're a truck driver. So what was that life like before you, jumped in real estate?
Man, my first business was actually a trucking business. So I started a trucking business. I was a truck driver before that. And then I was transitioning to real estate, and that's where I kind of met you. So I had all the time in the world to like listen to podcasts. So I'm actually a product of Real Estate Disruptors, and it's come full circle here. So I'm excited.
Oh, it's definitely come full circle. How about you?
Same thing, man. Was this a background question?
Yeah. What was your life like before you got into real estate, right? Like whether the tribulations or dreams or whatever, like why real estate?
Man, it was just a big fluke, I think. So I was in construction my whole life. Like, I was boxing at the time. I thought I was gonna be a famous boxer. I'm like 12 years old, and my dad's like, get in the truck, you're going to work. So now I'm working for my dad's company, painting, painter's helper, that kind of stuff. I got really, really good at construction and lead generation, right? So eventually I got to the point to where, with my dad's company, it was either feast or famine. Like we had a lot of money or no money at all, and a lot of work or no work at all. So I always found myself doing marketing, always reaching out to contractors, trying to find new work so that we could eat, that kind of stuff, important things. So fast forward to 2018, I'm doing commercial roofing, right? So we'll do like $1 million roof on a building. I was running a big roofing company with just my cell phone. So I'm doing all of the marketing, right? I have a professional marketing background for like 15 years. But my friends were running multi-million-dollar roofing companies, but they all had like construction crews and warehousing, office staff and all this. And it's just me and a cell phone running like bigger companies than them. What I was doing is I was like helping sue the insurance company, and then I would collect the funds and I would just wholesale the job to another roofing company.
Gotcha.
Let them do it, knock everything out.
Yeah.
So I got to the point where with my family, I was looking to build a house.
Mhm.
And I get on YouTube and I Googled, how do you buy land for cheap? Right. And I came across the term wholesaling. I was like, wait a minute. I'm doing these big roofing projects, right? And it takes like 6 months for fulfillment. But these guys are getting real estate contracts and then just selling them instantly and then making similar money. So I was like, I'm going to do this.
Right.
Yeah. So just the grace of God, man, I got lucky. One of my first deals on a 46-acre land deal made $85,000.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So-
probably not going to do houses.
So you were doing arbitrage. I mean, we call it wholesale, but you're already sourcing opportunities and selling those opportunities without fulfillment.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it was in construction. That's all I knew.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's your background. So, so you saw, you're looking to buy land for development. Development, is that what you said?
To build a house for my own family.
Build a house for yourself. Gotcha. And then you saw along the way, it's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
these guys are buying real estate and selling real quick. So then what was that jump like then? Tell me, like, what was how long from when you saw that till you actually did your first deal? When you started your real estate business, it was with the dream to change the world and make an impact. The reality is you might not be near that. If you're like many investors, you might be frustrated that you just can't succeed in getting your salespeople to do what they know that they should do. They operate on their own terms, meaning they don't follow your process that you know produces consistent results. So each month feels like a roller coaster because revenue is coming in inconsistently. How relieving would it be if your salespeople did follow your proven process, were receptive to feedback and training, and could be held accountable to the results that leads to their success and your success? Would your company stop riding in the roller coaster of revenue, frustration, and mental drain? And that's why we brought in Ren Bartlett. He's built a business that's wholesaled 100+ houses a month. The people he brings into his business are bought into the process. They have a deep understanding of their role and are excited to be held accountable because as a business owner, he truly knows their deeper why, so that we can demonstrate that our company is here to provide for their true purpose. If you'd like to finally stop dreading managing people who don't follow a process, produce inconsistent results, and aren't bought into your company, sign up for our sales leadership program to end the emotional stress of inconsistent results and finally have a fulfilling business working with people you want to be around.
Dude, so I'm an all-in kind of guy, right? I don't think about things. So I think what I lack in like intelligence or whatever, I just make up for in pure action. So I'm learning about wholesaling like mid-December. By January 1, I launched like $30,000 worth of marketing because I already knew I was going to get a deal. I've been doing marketing for too long. I knew if I spent enough on marketing, for sure I'm going to get a contract. There's no way that I couldn't. So I want to say it took me like 5 weeks to get my first contract. When I did my first pull ever was 500,000 records, and I RVM'd it, texted it, hired a VA, everything. I ordered like 1,000 bandit signs, made a bandit sign maker. My wife's right there. She drove me around while I'm hanging up bandit signs. Like I went all in, dude, 110% in.
Yeah.
And I got a contract pretty quick, but I already knew like if I ran across enough leads, I'd eventually get a deal. I called everybody in San Antonio, like all the gurus, and I had lunch with all of them, told them what I was doing. So I identified who was good at sub 2, who was good at commercial, who was good at land. And so anytime I got that type of deal or lead, I would take it to that person and go have lunch with them and give it away.
So there's no middle of the road with you.
No.
Either all in or all out. Gotcha.
Anybody that knows me, I'm an all in kind of guy.
Yeah. Okay. And then you immediately connected with all the gurus or the experts inside of San Antonio.
Yep.
There's a lot of them in San Antonio. I don't know why there's so many in San Antonio, but there are a lot of them.
For you to say that is crazy.
Yeah.
Phoenix is crazy.
Well, Phoenix is nuts as well, but to me, Phoenix makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I could just be in my own world, right? But, we kind of all, in some way, this is going to be a kind of weird way to describe it, but we're all like little like descendants of Sean Terry, right? Like he was the big one, and then we all kind of like followed in his footsteps.
Yeah.
In San Antonio, I don't think you guys have that. I don't think you have like one person you guys can all point to.
Logan Former? No. No, it's a really, really good market. It's ripe with opportunity. I feel like it's the last Texas major city that's like been unindustrialized or it hasn't been abused yet.
Yeah,
Lots
but
of green space.
You talk about, like the creative, right? Because you got Charles, you got Michael,
Mhm.
You got
Logan.
Aaron
Logan. I mean,
Bevins.
Logan in commercial. Yeah, right. I mean, he's insane with commercial. He's supposed to be coming on sometime in the very near future. I'm trying to think who is some.
You got Bevins there. You got
Yeah.
Mitzi. There's a bunch of names there.
Oh, Mitzi's there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought she was in Dallas. But yeah, I mean, you guys have like a lot of names out there. So you immediately just go all in on marketing, and then you meet all the wholesalers that you can just sell deals to. I mean, that sounds like the ideal action. So how'd that work out?
Amazing, actually, man. So I have a network marketing, like multi-level marketing background.
Okay.
So I already knew you get around the people that are doing well, and then
Uh-huh.
you just learn from them.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I bought them all lunch, bought them all steaks, right?
Yeah.
Went to lunch with everybody, and I immediately started just like they took me under their wing. They saw that I actually brought something to the table.
Right.
So I didn't show up and say, "Hey, what can you give me? How can you help me?" I
Pick your
came and I
brain.
said, "Hey, I
Pick-
have a lead."
Pick your brain. Don't say that.
Yeah, don't ever say that to anybody you want to
Yeah.
learn from. Don't say pick your brain. So I brought them the lead,
Mhm.
and they would just automatically start teaching me. I'll say, "Here, what do you want for it?" Like, I don't care, but you're going to teach me.
Yeah. So MLM background.
Yeah.
Outside the construction component.
Mm-hmm.
So were you successful in the MLM realm?
Dude, so I joined my first company. I think I was like 17 or 18. It was like Usana, those kinds of guys.
Mhm.
And I bombed at everything. Didn't sign up anybody. Like call your friends and family and sign. This is not my personality type. But there was a company called Empower Network. There's a guy named David Wood. And I was going to join that company. It was like a blogging based MLM. It was weird. I want to say it was probably 12 years ago or something.
Yeah.
I was looking to join the company, but I didn't know how to join. I didn't know what their website was. I didn't know anything, but I wanted to follow this guy. So I found a video on YouTube where the gentleman was talking about like, "Hey, join my team in MLM," and he had his phone number in the description of the video.
Mhm.
I was like, "This is genius." So I called him. I'm like, "Dude, I want to join Empower Network. I want to join your team." He's like,
Mhm.
"Perfect. Sign me up. Good." And he did coaching. He had all kinds of cool stuff. But like the light bulb came on. It's like, man, I know how to do MLM now.
Mhm.
So I shut it down. I wasn't real too interested in the product after a while. But when I found a company called Power that I did want to blow up in,
Mhm.
I did the same exact strategy. I ran a YouTube video. I ran ads to it. Put my number in there, and randomly one day somebody calls me. They said, "Hey, you signed up 4 people in 2 days. How'd you do it?" And I'm like, "I did." So people were converting without me even talking to them.
Yeah.
So I nailed it, dude. I became one of the top guys in the company right away.
Yeah.
And I figured like, yeah, this marketing thing's starting to go good.
That's awesome. And the only reason I'm asking this is that, MLM has a really bad rap, right? And I can't say it's undeserved, even though I'm in one. I can't say it's undeserved, right? But the great thing about MLM is that most of the people that were successful in MLMs go off to do other things well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I mean, like you look at entrepreneurship and do my own thing and do my marketing, doing this. Like you have to learn all these things, mindset that you don't get in a W-2 world, right? I mean, like
Leadership too.
leadership. So I
Yeah.
say, between MLM and college, like probably MLM, even though it's not.
Wow, that's a big statement.
Yeah, even though it's not necessarily the best reputation. So you said you started in December. Mid-December, you said was your.
Yeah. So I just started learning. Yeah.
When was that exactly? What year?
18.
Okay, so mid-December 18. What is this thing? January, let's just drop 30,000 in marketing. February, you do your first deal. You said 80 something?
I got my first contract was actually a house, and
Uh-huh.
I got into it with a broker and agent. They walked with me, helped me drop the contract. It took months to close. That was
Okay.
contract number 1.
Okay.
I want to say the second one was it was a 46-acre farm south of Fort Worth.
Mhm.
And again, I called the people that I thought might be able to help. They kind of walked me through it.
Mhm.
I did a novation deal. Didn't know what the heck that was, but we gave the seller a certain amount down. She
Mhm.
signed it over to me. I listed it, sold $85K.
Yeah. Wow. So that's pretty impressive. So there is the way you were saying, I just dropped 30,000 because I knew this was going to work.
Mhm.
But there was never a moment of doubt in your head whether this was going to work or not.
I had to. My marketing background was so extensive. Like I said, I know like you spend enough dollars and you get conversions. You don't have to be a genius.
Yeah.
You could just be Joe Blow. So yeah,
Yeah.
I was very 100% sure that we were going to do some business.
Gotcha. All right. So then how about you? Like how long from like I'm going to do it to.
So we actually got the same course in December. We both started around January, same time. He told me to start looking into land because he got that quick deal quick. He had marketing spend. I didn't have marketing spend. I had $1,000 a month. And I contracted a few houses. Didn't work out. I had 3 contracts fall through. 2 like $20,000 assignment fees fell through. One seller died right
Yeah,
before
I remember that.
closing. Right before closing, and I had another one. I went through pre-foreclosure. I evicted the tenant, trashed it out, took it to closing. I was making like 25,000, then fell apart. Closed. Crazy. And then he's like, just try land, see what happens. So literally within like 2 weeks, I put a carrot site up and the Google ads. Lady came in. I was afraid of sales, so I was like emailing her, emailing her. I got the. Sorry, I'm so sick. I'm a little irritated. So I got the contract through email, found a buyer on Facebook Marketplace in 2 days, sold it, made $6,000, and the rest is history. No houses, no house deals, all land.
The first deal you locked up was through email.
Through email, 100%.
You never talked to her on the phone, never text her.
I never talked to the buyer either. So that tells you, like, this tells you how our relationship goes. Is that I'm a lot of the back end. He's the front end sales, contracting, and all that stuff. So I do like agent calls now and stuff like that. Where I've kind of grown this muscle, but back then, man, I was afraid to talk to anybody.
Okay, so then you guys connected pretty soon thereafter. Like you said you guys were in the same course.
Yeah. So Jalen White, we both took Jalen White's course back in 2019.
Yeah.
So that's how we connected.
So you guys connected. How soon from when you connected till you guys started working together?
Immediately, dude.
It was like a year in.
Well, we were always networking. So
we were always networking and communicating.
I think I posted in the group something about like, hey, is anybody doing land? And of course, crickets, right? And then Daniel's like, hey, some land. And so we just started talking and we stayed connected. I noticed that he was really good at numbers, right? So if I'm running comps, right, I'm just running there with like half a brain, like, I could figure it out sooner or later. I took pre-cal in college.
Yeah.
But I would notice when I would send him something and he would send back the comps like within minutes. I was like, what the heck did this guy do? And then anytime there was anything that was numbers, percentages, anything, he would come back in like seconds. And I'm like, okay, that's something that might have taken me 30 minutes, an hour, and this guy's knocking it out quick. So we immediately identified each other's strengths and he'd be like, hey, can you call the seller for me? I got this lead. So we immediately just started leaning on each other back and forth. So it was a Hivemind since day one. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys were closely working together from the get-go. How many deals did you guys collaborate on before you guys decided, like, you know what, let's just be partners?
Probably like 5.
I was gonna say, yeah, it was just a few, just a handful, but we just started leaning on each other immediately. Like, hey, I need earnest money for this. Hey, can you help me with this contract? Like, just right away. We just kind of felt that vibe, and he never asked me like, hey, well, what's in it for me? And I never asked him either, like, what's in it for you? We just automatically started clicking, and I would say we started the Hivemind thing just over 3 years ago, and I had this business idea, and
2021.
It was like 1 a.m. and I'm telling Daniel about it, and he's like, that's a great effing idea. I'm like, it sure is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of just all very fluid, man. Strange.
Sure.
Yeah.
So then, after a few deals and about a year, you guys decided to partner up.
Yeah.
So
it was a loose partnership. We didn't sign agreements or nothing. We were just helping each other.
It was a handshake agreement.
Okay. Is that still a handshake agreement, or is the things they're in writing now?
No, now we got joint LLCs, trust, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what are some of the challenges you guys had initially working together?
I think we work really well together because like he has the strengths and I have my strengths, so we work like that yin and yang side of it. So we really we never really, even to this day, we don't fight about stuff because we're both just working. Like I don't have to ask him like, what did you do today? Like he doesn't ask me what I did today.
Right.
Like, we're both just working. And I live in California too, and he lives in San Antonio. So
yeah, that's right. You moved to California.
yeah.
Okay. So then you guys bought Jalen White's course.
Yeah.
Right. And then you guys get out there and you hit it hard. And then you also talk to a bunch of other, mentors in your market. What else? Who was instrumental in helping you guys,
it
go
was
in the right direction?
everybody. I mean, I think land was the one direction. I think you kind of go down that path and you start coming across problems. The best way is doing the action of it. And then you come across different problems. You do like title situations, and I call Logan. And he was mentoring Logan before Logan even started going out there. So he was like, oh, how do we fix the title problem? And he was like, oh, we got to do this, this, and this. And he told me, okay, we got to do this, this, and this. So we kind of worked through the problems. And then we got sub 2. He talked to Uncle Charles and Mike. Boom, boom, boom. We're working through creative sub 2. Now we understand creative sub 2, trouble title. And then we started looking for flip opportunities. And then we're just focusing on land and then doing all this other stuff that goes down the line with it. And you eventually get better over time and you see your new different opportunities.
Yeah. I would say the people that were instrumental for one, Logan Fulmer and his partner, Ryan McDonald. Yeah, Ryan and me are like this now. I probably talked to him multiple times per week. But it was them two, Mike and Charles for sure. They both spent a lot of time with me when I was a new kid. Like I wasn't even doing deals yet.
Yeah.
Charles stayed till like 9 o'clock at night one time, like on a Friday or Saturday. It was crazy. And he just got out the whiteboard and just went to town. So Mike and Charles for sure. Logan and Ryan. Mitzi went with me to lunch a bunch of times. Corey Thompson, man. He's one of the guys that took us under his wing, and like he's, he could be a little abrasive, right? So hard to get in his good graces. But whatever reason, man, we just clicked since day one, and I just like how genuine he is and honest he is. Yeah. So yeah, I think some of those names, and I'm sure there's a lot more, and somebody's gonna cuss me out after this, but Those are the ones that I could
It
think
was
of
a
right
lot
away.
of people, and it
Yeah.
wasn't like any one person. Even you, because you with the podcast, we learned stuff from your guest.
Mhm.
So like it was a culmination of a lot of different things, and I think a lot of people they get stuck in that one. Like I think make war with many counselors,
Mhm.
and like we never met or talked to some of these people, even people your guests. But it was just one of those things where we got different information from all over the place and kind of pieced it together based off of what we were doing in our business today, and that's how we kind of came up with what we do.
I'll tell you,
Gotcha.
man, I was watching Real Estate Disruptors like every episode, like binge watching, dude, for like a whole year. Like no TV, no radio, nothing. I was watching your show and I was like, this is freaking amazing. Like, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
on that show.
Oh, I love it. I love that. So yeah, and you talk about Charles. I mean, Charles is the guy that he'll take his shirt off off his back to really help you out, right? It's
Yeah.
totally selfless. And you talk about Corey Thompson. I love Corey.
I love Corey too.
He's
He's like a brother to me, dude. Yeah.
he's a great BS detector.
Yeah.
He does.
And he'll call you out on it.
He'll call you out on it. He might be wrong sometimes,
Yeah.
and he'll admit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then he's like the baller busters for real estate.
So that's why we keep them close. So we do an annual event every year, and Corey spoke every year.
Yeah.
And he'll bring his own little entourage with him, and we'll have fun. And it's a fun time with him. He always brings his own little spark. With him.
Yeah, he's a character, and he's not afraid to speak his mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you said that you started doing land, and then there's other things that come along with it.
Mhm.
So your core focus is still land.
It's still land, but like different versions of land. Like when we first started, it was like flipping. Then we got into like creative financing,
Mhm.
seller financing, wraps, and then it turned into like a subdivide, and now we're doing entitlements. So it's like we kind of went down that path, and the deeper you go down, the door opens up a little bit more, and you
Mhm.
kind of see like, oh, that's interesting. Let's try and do that. So like we've learned like our land knowledge is like exponential, and we're still learning. Like even we talked to our engineer today, and the engineer's like, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, that's amazing. We should look more for that opportunity.
Mhm.
So like as we go further down into it, we're learning and becoming very skilled at it.
Yeah. So you're talking about like this engineer spouting these ideas. Like, what is like your latest rabbit hole you guys are going through?
Latest rabbit hole has to be the actual entitlement process itself,
Yeah.
right? Because we could take a 100-acre ranch, buy it for $1 million, survey it off into several pieces, flip it, sell some for cash, some for notes.
Mhm.
Amazing deal. And you can make
Yeah.
a couple $100,000 to $1 million just doing that alone.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to entitlements, now we're looking at flood zone and endangered species, and you're going down all these different, like what the Texas Department of Transportation,
Roads.
dealing with the county, putting in roads, like soil compaction, like holy smokes, like this leads to a lot of different places.
Mhm.
So that's probably been like the biggest can of worms we've ever opened. So we're not
Yeah.
going to change our business model. We're going to keep cutting up branches in
Mhm.
Texas. But again, it's like, do you want to make 500,000 on this deal, or do you want to push it to like 5 million profit on this deal? Same exact deal,
Yeah.
right? Without ever breaking ground. So that's why
Right.
we're trying to look at both things without completely changing our core business model.
Yeah, and entitlement is it's a crazy concept. I first heard about entitlements, I want to say in like 2009, 10, 11, or whatever on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a different situation because then they couldn't even give land away,
Wow.
right? Like you had land, you couldn't even give it away because it's upside down before you even bought and take it, right?
Yeah.
So they couldn't sell the land; they could only sell it for the cost of entitlement. So I was like,
Dang.
hey, you give me the $8,000 I spent on entitlement, you can have the land for free. That's the way it was. Because
Wow.
again, we're talking about this is after the real estate crash, and all the developers that had the money to buy all these things, they killed it.
Yeah.
But most people didn't have that kind of cash, right?
Mhm.
So, but yeah, I mean, for everyone that's listening right now, they may not be familiar with entitlement. I know you kind of hit some things here, but for the people that are listening that are unfamiliar with entitlements, because I think this could be a huge opportunity for somebody that's listening.
Yeah.
What is entitlement?
Yep. So it's the process of taking a raw piece of land, right? So let's say you get in any major city, you drive down any main highway that leaves the city. We go right past the neighborhoods, and then we go to land where it's just raw land, the farm. You see some cows out there, some horses, some goats if you're in Texas, probably in a lot of other places.
Yeah.
But you take that raw piece of land and then you repurpose it. So it could be zoned like unzoned, it could be agricultural, it could be residential if it's inside the city.
Mhm.
You take it and you apply with the county, the city, everybody that wants to talk to you, the fire marshal, right?
Mhm.
And you usually hire an engineer. You rezone it, so you repurpose it. So let's say it was residential, single family residential as houses. You throw a couple $100,000 at it, and now the city says, hey, you can build apartments here.
Mhm.
So the same piece of land without ever breaking dirt goes in value of $250,000 to $8 million,
Mhm.
right? Just within maybe a year and a half time span. and a couple $100,000. So you just repurpose the land and get everybody to approve you for doing a different use for that property.
Right.
Yeah.
And the developers like it too because they don't have to wait for that timeline of actually doing that work. So they'll come in and like, hey, I can buy this today and put a shovel in it tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to buy the opportunity. So that's what they're looking for.
The guys with the money don't want to wait. So they buy back their time by paying you to do the entitlement process.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I heard someone do a presentation on this at Collective Genius. I want to say about a year ago, maybe less. But yeah, that was his business model. Is he would just buy land, he would get it entitled, and he would sell it without ever putting a shovel in the ground. But for him, it was always he would buy it subject to entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like, hey, I will buy this land if I can get the entitlement approved. But if I can't get the entitlement approved, you can have it back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
furthermore, we'll give you all the paperwork you paid for,
Yeah.
and as we shake hands and leave. But it's also a good way to lose 50 or 100 grand if you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
If you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
yes, it can be really expensive because you're spending a lot of money to get something approved that might never get approved.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So we're both gambling. Like you gamble, you give me a year of your time and your property for a year,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna put in a couple $100 grand or 50
Mhm.
grand, whatever the number is, and then hopefully on the back end we both make profit. But if not, I'll give you all that paperwork. We'll shake hands as friends, and I'm out of here.
Exactly. So now you mentioned that you're trying to figure out your business model. Do I want to keep doing what I'm doing, or do I want to do entitlement?
Mm-hmm.
What are the factors we're considering and trying to figure out whether you want to entitle or not?
So I want to cover a little bit back into this. So we kind of do. When we first started, we did not start with entitlements. It's a very high level thing that we got to.
I know,
So
we're just talking about the rabbit hole right now.
Oh.
We still have to go back to the land.
okay. Yeah, the land is crazy. So you can find flip opportunities to make 6-figure spreads pretty easily, and they're out there. I just interviewed a client / student of ours. He found a $230,000 deal for 30 grand, sold it for 30 grand down. He's making $4,500 a month for 60 months
Mhm.
net cash flow.
Yeah.
So if we want to talk about cash
That's a
flow,
lot of houses.
that's a lot of cash flow
Mhm.
with no maintenance, repairs, nothing. So like I love Twitter, so I'm always like beating up people. Like somebody tweeted today is like, oh, what's the best investment class to invest in?
No, they said what to stay away from. I think
No, what's the best investment class to invest in?
wrong
But
answers.
Wrong
only.
answers only. So I put SFR. And then everybody's like, oh, why SFR? Because I'm like, it doesn't cash flow. Like when your AC or roof goes out, there goes 2 years of cash flow.
Mhm.
So with land, you can add value or find value through arbitrage at pricing, and you can create notes and create like a crazy yield out of nothing
Mhm.
that doesn't even exist. And like, what do your end buyers do with it? I don't know. It's not my business. My business is writing good paper
Mhm.
Mhm.
at good properties. So it's like you can do flips to create large amounts of value, and you can create cash flow to create large amounts of cash flow.
Mhm.
And that's why land is the best asset class.
So I want to get back to that. The factors on entitlement.
Mhm.
What are you considering?
Okay, so we have first of all, we have a lens that we view deals through.
Yeah.
The quickest way to do it is a 10-acre subdivide. Right? Again, you buy 100 acres, you cut it up, sell it. That's lens number one. If we can do that profitably, now we're interested in the deal. But now we're going to look at things like, does the property have sewer connections?
Yep.
Right? What's it zoned for? What kind of, does it have groundwater? How close to the city is it? Right? What's going up around it?
Frontage.
So all those things we could learn to decide. So right now we picked up a ranch for 8,000 acres, like $2 million. And we noticed that everything in that area is going for $20,000+ an acre. How do we know? Because we sold one right up the road.
Mhm.
Right? So now we're like, okay, we can cut this thing up. We can sell it. We can make about $1 million cash in like 12 months or so. But if we spend about $500,000 on engineering, right? Now we're getting offers for right under $5 million. Right? On something that we paid $2 million for. So it's like, do we want to hold on to it and push this thing to like $2 to $3 to $4 million, or do we want to just grab the million and move on to the next one? So I think it depends on demand, right? What area you're in. If this thing was 10 more minutes south, we might not have done any entitlements at all. Let's chop it up, sell it, move on to the next one. So I think that's probably the most important thing is like, hey, how much time and cash would we invest into this thing, and what kind of exponential return can we pull out?
Right.
And that's probably the biggest indicator is like,
Return in cash, return in time.
there you go. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
should we put actually 12 months into this thing and make the return go up 3x? Like, yeah, this is a great area, great opportunity, lots of development happening around there. 10 minutes outside the city. This is perfect.
Yeah.
The 10-acre lot subdivide, we did one in under 90 days. Contracted it, sold it 90 days. So that's the quickest way to cash. So within the land space that we do. So we always look through that first lens, like you said. So
So you're looking at land and then see if you can turn these into 10-acre.
10-acre plus lots. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 30, but depending on how big the land is, we can cut it up without going through county approval in Texas.
Why? So this is probably the single most important thing. If you, let's say you took a 20-acre lot and you cut it down into 1-acre lots, that's a year. I don't care how you look at it, 9 months to a year, right? On a small piece of land. But if you took a 200-acre plot and cut it up, as long as you stay above 10.01 acres in Texas, it'll be done like in 2 months, maybe 3 months total, and you're out the door. So sometimes we're sold out before we have to close.
Right.
So
it's something particular in Texas where you want to be over 10 acres, where the red tape is a lot shorter.
It's non-existent.
Yeah.
From what I've been told, or what we've been told, it works like in 18 states, probably red states, right?
Yeah.
But that's where it's a pretty simple game. As long as you cut out big pieces, notody bothers you. They're not worried about it. Like, we can fix it later if you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Right. But once you start cutting up 1 and 2 acre tracts, now it affects drainage, it affects the neighbors. Like, you got a whole other set of problems that are coming in. So
Got it. So it's for all the calculations.
There's a lot of different governing bodies that want to take a look at it.
Yeah. And that makes total sense. Right. Because how many houses can you actually fit on this? But 10 acres, whatever, we'll figure it out. 1-acre lots, all right, well, what's the density? How much water are they going to need? And so on. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Everything.
So we find there's limited water. There's like just different challenges. Like, the city will be like, hey, there's only a 3-inch water line there. Like, we're not going to be able to give you 180 meters. Right. We can give you 6. Like, oh, dang, 20-acre tract. Let's do it. Right. So quick in and out, depending on what's around us. And again, how far we are from civilization.
Right. Gotcha. That makes total sense. So you're talking about the cash flowing component.
Yeah.
And then the guy is buying it seller finance and selling it owner finance.
So right now we try and acquire seller finance. So that $2 million deal, we got it for $500,000 down. 0% financing, 1.6 carry debt from the seller, payments $4,500 a month. If we go through and subdivide those lots into 10-acre lots all the way through, it might produce $20,000 a month cash flow, and we give $4,500 to the seller. So like, we have opportunities to create through seller financing, because land is underserviced when it comes to financing. Very, very underserviced. You can get, there's billions and billions of dollars for every other asset class, but nothing for land. The banks won't even lend on it.
Underserviced for financing.
Yeah. I'm on the buy and sell side.
Right.
So sellers are kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place, because no one can buy it unless you have cash. And if you buy it cash, they're going to get it discounted. And if they buy it financed, it's really hard to get bank financing as a whole. So everybody's always asking for seller financing.
For sure.
So they're kind of stuck in limbo forever. So we always make the joke that land, literally nobody buys it. We've never been bought out on a deal. We just make the offer and wait 6 months, 12 months, and it comes back to us again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think my understanding, I don't do a lot of land, but I'm going to be dating myself here. Back in my day, when I was learning about land, it was always 10, 10, 10, right? It was 10% down, 10% interest, and doing 10, right? So, I mean, is that rule ever mentioned anymore? Or is that just like the old people?
Same thing. Yeah, 10% interest. We're aiming at 11.99 when the rates went up. We were at 10, but yeah, 10% down and 10, 12% interest works great.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
We'll do up to 30 years, but it really depends on what they can afford. We kind of mold the payment around them.
Gotcha. Who's buying your land?
Dude, it's all retail end buyers. We don't have a buyer's list at all. 0 buyers list. Yeah, we just sell directly to end buyers.
So we essentially have a wholesale model. So we do a lot of like guerrilla marketing through Facebook and Facebook ads, and then MLS, and then we put panda signs out. So we do like every type of marketing channel, because that's the other thing. Once you sit like 45 days in MLS, you're going to start getting beat up by wholesalers, by us and wholesalers.
Are these nasty wholesalers? I know they're terrible. Yeah.
So our whole goal is we're trying to move that property within under 60 days. But people that come in week 1, those are serious buyers. So we're always trying to offload it and work with those people that come in early, because we know how to price it. And if we're offering selling financing, hey, 10% down, I'm like, okay, how much is it per month? $2,500. Okay, I got that. Don't worry about that.
That's all we need to know. How much can they put down? How much can they afford monthly?
It's almost like,
and then we can back into the years and everything else.
It's like it's like used car sales. It's like used car sales, because they back into the purchase price and the monthly payment.
New car sales is not that different.
I mean, same idea. It's just car sales in general.
Yeah.
So we're like the car sales of real estate.
Yeah. So you take it down, you buy it seller finance, and then you list it on the MLS, and then retail buyer comes along and you sell it.
Cash or seller finance.
Yeah.
Any which way we can. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So then you guys are getting pretty comfortable with notes then, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Our
Which
note,
is different than land.
our note game's getting pretty crazy.
All right.
It's
So
fun.
who's helping you who's helping you guys get good at notes?
For one, experience, but for two, we're learning from a lot of people.
Mhm.
I think even the note buyers, right? Those guys are really seasoned and they're really good. So
They ask
we're
all the
learning.
good questions.
Yeah.
So like, what'd you ask again? You need what? Okay, let's write that down.
So we're learning
Right.
from them. There's a guy named Hivemind out of Texas who taught us a lot about financing and interest rates and how to play with the notes. Older gentleman named Tom Henderson, who's like one of the best that ever lived, like a guru type.
Mhm.
We've been to his seminar, got his book, but man, we didn't realize that notes is its own universe. Right?
It's his own world.
It's his own universe.
Yeah.
So most of the people that do notes, they can't create them. So we kind of fit in between all of them because we're practicing notes, but also creating them too.
Mhm.
So we get to play on both sides of it.
Yeah, like note buyers, they have trouble finding the notes to buy,
Mhm.
right? And we're mass producing them.
All right.
We need help.
You guys ever work with Eddie?
We interviewed him one time, and I think he taught us just enough in that interview for us to be able to run with it. I think that was a big paradigm shift for us.
Well, I guess the reason
Yeah.
I'm bringing up Eddie Speed is that
Mhm.
he has like a marketplace,
Yeah.
right? But it doesn't really. Or I guess are you guys just holding on to the notes?
We're doing
not by choice.
we're doing a little bit of everything right now. So right now we've been kind of arbitraging the notes. We've been selling the notes. We'd like to keep them and then leverage them again, but that's a whole nother strategy in itself. But we're working our way into keeping them and
So what we
recirculating
were
them.
doing in the beginning, as we needed capital, because we did I think this is probably the gravest mistake that a real estate investor can make, is you do some deals, you do some flips, then you take your own capital and then you reinvest it. I think it's the worst way to get rich ever.
Yeah.
Right? Knowing what we know now. So that's what we've been doing for 5 years. And as soon as we create the notes, we would liquidate, either pay the seller off, put a little bit of profit in our pocket, roll on to the next. So we're getting to the point to where our volume's increasing so much that we're getting stuck with notes. Right? The interest rates went up, note buying game goes down. So now we're pushing $2 million worth of notes. And it wasn't our intention to hold on to them, but we have them. So it's kind of like the notes are becoming a byproduct of our business model. So that's
Gotcha.
it. Both enjoyable and traumatizing at the same time.
How is it enjoyable?
Well, we're starting to get the cash flow, the passive cash flow is starting to build up, right?
Right.
The golden rule for land is land doesn't cash flow.
Mhm.
But it looks like it's cash flowing on our side.
Yeah.
Right. And that wasn't the intention because eventually we thought we would keep them at some point, but we didn't know because the market was going to crash and note buyers were going to stop buying. So
In what ways has it been a problem?
well, being able to get in and out of deals, right? So let's say the seller says, "Hey, I want $1 million for this ranch." We come in, we say, "Hey, well, we'll give you 200,000 down or 300,000 down." We chop it up, sell it. Some of it's cash, some of it's seller finance. We take the bulk of the cash, give it to the seller, put some in our pocket, sell the rest of the notes to pay the seller off. Well, if nobody's buying notes, like, "Hey, Mr. Seller, we're going to be a couple 100,000 short by our closing date,
Gotcha.
right? Or at the end of the financing term." So there, you have that portion in there.
So the note you have with the seller, you can't pay them back because you can't get out of your existing note.
Yeah. So we have the notes like, "Hey, we can get you paid out, but would you take some notes as the rest of the cash instead of cash?" Sometimes they say no, sometimes they say yes, but that's the challenge right now. Yes, is being able to use that same strategy that we've been using for a few years.
We have a cash burn problem, not a cash flow, because cash burn, every time we create a note, it just absorbs equity, cash that we could use and redeploy and all that other stuff. So it's just cash burn. So we're always trying to redeploy and redistribute that.
Well,
that
I mean,
debt.
that's the problem I think kind of happens in land.
Mhm.
There were a couple guys on discount lots. You guys ever interact with them?
It's called discount lots.
Mhm.
Never heard of it.
So that's their problem is like they're buying all this land and they're selling them on terms, right? And it's the same thing. It's like the only thing that's stopping us is cash,
Absolutely.
right? Because like we can buy good land and we can cash flow, right? But it takes time to recuperate the out of pocket, right? So long term, it's they got a great balance sheet, but not cash.
Yep.
All right. I imagine that's kind of what you're talking about as well.
That's exactly what we've arrived to, right? So now we came up with this crazy idea, like, let's start a fund, right? Because that 12% return is amazing, right? If somebody just parks their cash there and they can get 12% back and not have to think about it. So that's kind of our next direction now is like, okay, so I think we got really, really good at lend. We got really, really good at lead generation, right? We have an overabundance of leads. But now, like, I think and this is what I kind of alluded to earlier, is that making your own cash and redeploying it is not the best way to get rich, right? It's
It's not. It's the best way to get cash poor.
yeah. It was actually Corey Thompson, man. He sent me it was one morning. He texted me a video. It was Grant Cardone, which I'm not a great big fan of. Corey is. I just think he's kind of cheesy.
Yeah, Corey loves Grant. I don't understand that. For someone that hates gurus, he really loves Grant.
He really loves Grant.
He texted me a link, right? And I love Corey, so I'm like, press play, right? Just woke up. And it was his book, How to Get Super Rich or something like that. And the only one sentence I needed out of the whole entire book is like, just find somebody who's extremely wealthy and deploy their capital.
Yeah.
Say no more, Grant. So it kind of clicked. So that's when I told Daniel, hey, we need to change our focus now into just raising capital. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, no matter what asset class you want to get into, whether it's commercial or self-storage or anything like that, if you have capital that's ready to deploy, then it makes everything else easy. And what we've come to find out is that it's easier to borrow $1 million than it is to borrow $10,000, right? Because the person that could lend you 10 doesn't have it. But the guy that has $1 million is like, yeah, here it is, pay me back when it sells.
All right.
Like, oh, damn, I think we're onto something. So
absolutely,
that's where we're headed next.
So before we get into that, before we get into the fund, because I want to talk about the fund, talk to me about some of your biggest success stories with land.
Okay, got a couple of them.
So I'm going to start off small, and I like this deal because it shows that anybody can do it. So it's kind of barrier to entry deals. So we had a deal come in, very brief. It was worth about $35,000 to $40,000. One thing that we love about land is there's no comps. Like, we're kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about it, because there's no verifiable comps.
You say that's the best part about it.
That's the best. That's the
Some
best.
people would be scared to death about that.
That's the best part, because as long as you know you have it under, you're gonna make money. You just don't know how much.
All right. So as long as you buy it right.
As long as you buy it right.
Yeah.
So we the deal came in through PPC, and the guy wanted 15, which is already 50 cents on the dollar, and most people would jump all over that. But the thing is that we know is that there's no buyers for this. So we're like, yeah, let him go. Let him season a little bit. So he comes back 3 months later and he's like, I need 15 for this lot. I remember you were interested. Like, what can you do? I'm like, dude, $9,000. It was $8,000. That's it. So he's negotiating with him, $8,000. Like, all right, I'll take it, $8,000. So we get a contract for $8,000. We immediately sold it on Facebook Marketplace for $8,000 down, $500 a month for 5 years. Boom, write it up. $8,000 the buyer gives us, goes straight to the seller, and now we hold the paper. Easy deal. You can find deals like that very easily on the MLS, marketplace, marketing in general. So that's kind of like our barrier to entry deal that we always talk about, because anybody can find a $40,000 lot. There's some down the street you can pass up, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the barrier to entry. And then we had talk about the China deal.
That's one of the first ones that I did. So it's like 12:30 at night. Lord knows what I was doing awake. And I saw a number come in and said China on it. I'm like, oh, damn, scammers, right? Because I had just set up my Google ads. And the lady, actually, I called the number. Nobody answered. She calls right back. I was like, what the heck? So it's a lady she's like a school teacher, right, in China. She's like from here. And she's the one that had the property over there by Fort Worth. And she's like, I got to sell this property and all this stuff. She's like, I need to get $225,000 for it, or $250,000. And I'm like, dang, I don't have that kind of money. I just started. I don't know anybody that could lend it to me. So I'm like, this is probably not a deal, whatever. So we stayed on the phone for like an hour. We're just laughing, talking, just having fun, like just, shooting, whatever. And eventually she says, yeah, and the backside of the ranch backs up to I-35. And I said, wait a minute, I-35, $200,000, 40 acres. I was like, this is starting to sound like a deal.
That sounds like a really good deal.
Where did you say the property was? So I go straight to my laptop, checked it out, and I asked her, I said, hey, what do you got to get for this thing? And so we made an offer that night. The next day she calls me. She says, I need to talk to my son and see what he says. So she calls me the next day. She says, yeah, we'll go ahead and take the offer. And that's that first deal where we got that big pot for 85. So we did a kind of novation deal. I didn't know what to do, right? I'm completely lost. So I called Addison Blanks, a couple of guys that are high mint that are already in the game. It's like, what's the best thing to do here? And he's like, well, how much money does she need right now? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't ask. So I called her and I said, hey, look, I want to get you the money. Let's go ahead and do the deal. I was like, what do you need to put in your pocket right away? Just to kind of get your head above water so that we can do this deal together. And I told her I was going to resell it. I said, I might split it up into a few pieces and sell it, or whatever I can do here. And she said, you know what? If I had $10,000 right now, you can take all the time you need with the property. Done. Called my attorney, had him draw it up. Send her 10 grand. She put it in my name. I listed it on the MLS, and the neighbor bought it. Like, damn. Okay. Good to go. So
the quick 85, that's not too shabby.
Significant, man, for somebody that's just getting started, didn't have the confidence to know what I was doing. So it was a really good win, man. It really kind of set the bar for me. It's like, hey, I thought I was going to flip houses, right? Because like I'm the best contractor that ever lived. I'm a licensed home builder, general contractor.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna kill it in remodeling, right? But it just as soon as I got that pop on land, I was like, okay, yeah, I need to stick with this.
All right.
We got another one. So this is one we did back in November. We bought 18 acres in Bastrop. And
Where?
Bastrop, Texas.
It's east of Austin.
Okay.
So I like this one too. We're kind of scaling a little bit up. We got a free cash flow deal. We got an 85 flip. This one was really good. So a wholesaler bought it and they had it and they're kind of sitting on it and they're trying to move it again. They're like, it was 18 acres. We would never bought it if it was one lot. One thing what we're always looking for is arbitrage opportunities. So this is 18 acres and 4 lots. Ding, 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 ding. That's money right there. So we bought it for $450. It was like a Wednesday or Thursday. We've been closed on it. We had 3 contracts for 3 of the lots because we sold it separately by Monday for $600,000. They closed in 2 weeks. So we were in 400, 600 back, and then we still have 1 lot that we're still selling for $199.
I think it went under contract today.
Oh, I didn't even tell me. So, so it was like 400 in, 800 out. And I think it
was like a $230K win in like 3 weeks from the time we closed. And we had it sold before we had to close. And then, so that last one should be like roughly 400, like in 60 days or something.
Yeah. So those are all some really good wins, right?
Yeah.
The promise of the show, or the premise of the show, is why land is the best investment.
Yeah.
So why is land the best investment?
Because depending on what your strategy is, if it's cash flow or flips, you can do bigger spreads and create larger cash flow in land without any of the CapEx, OpEx, and management of any other asset class.
There's no staff. Nothing's going to break down. There's no roof leaks, no toilets, no tenants.
Yeah. Because we've had Jack Bosch on the show.
Yeah.
Right. We've had Ray Jang on the show. We had Brent Bauer, as I was.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Brent.
Yeah. Right. It's because they're all preaching the same thing. Right. So tenants, toilets, termites. I think that's Jack's saying. Right. You're saying no staff, which I think is also incredibly appealing. So then what are the expenses then in running a land business?
So I'll tell you, for the most part, if for a brand new land company, it would be marketing and engineering, right? And improvement. So if you had to put in culverts, fences, that kind of stuff, that would probably be the biggest challenge. But just if I could back up for 1 second, I want to talk about, because I didn't get to answer why land is the best investment. I think it's a sure bet no matter what, right? So if you buy a commercial property, you buy a house, you buy something like that, there's always that buffer zone where you don't know what's going to happen, right? Your rehab goes up, goes over. Now it's not a deal anymore.
Yeah.
Interest rates turn, and you got to give back $80 million worth of apartments, right? Like we saw in Texas. So with land, with land, you buy 100 acres, right? We look at it through that first lens of 10-acre subdivides. So there's for sure profit there, right? We usually aim for somewhere between like 500 and a million per ranch. So there's going to be some kind of win, even if it halves, right? And now instead of 500, you make 250. Still a sure bet, right? Nobody's going to feel sorry for us if we made 250,000 instead of 5. Right. But with land, you can take it to the next level. Always. It's always a strategy. So instead of doing 10-acre tracts, right, you do some engineering, you break it down to 5-acre lots or 2.5-acre lots or 1-acre lots. So instead of you having to take a loss, right, with like apartments or commercial of any of those guys, you just hit it with a little bit more capital in a few more months, and you can always increase the output no matter what.
It's a blank canvas.
Even if you overbought, even if you overpaid, you still continue to inject a little bit of time and capital into it, and you can always force appreciation higher. So much so that some of them, you can push them into 10 million, 20 million, right, profit, just by continuing to inject more time and capital into it. So it's a for sure bet. You're never going to lose. And I say never, but I mean, there's a lot of ways to increase the value of that property by just putting in more time and capital.
Gotcha. So marketing, what kind of marketing are you guys doing to get land?
This is the funny part. So we talked about podcasting a little bit earlier. We have not marketed to a seller in 13 months directly. Okay. So we have zero marketing spend right now. All of our lead flow comes from our students and just education that we put out there. And like, is this a deal? And then we put a lot of outward education. So, and like right now we don't have that many students, but we have enough deal flow where it's crazy.
Yeah.
So we're just looking to grow the team at this point.
We have 550 ranches on our spreadsheet, and it grows every day. Every day.
Yeah.
So you say ranch, just I'm curious if maybe that means different things in different areas. So what does ranch mean when you say ranch?
You know, maybe somebody's going to ding me. They're going to watch this and be like, no, he blew it, because I'm from Texas, right? But I'm a city boy. I'm not even from the country. So
the hat is just for show?
Yeah. Branding purposes only. No, I'm kidding. So a ranch is usually like a workable ranch, right? So you're gonna have like animals, you're gonna have equipment, you're gonna have maybe irrigation, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Where in another type of property, you might say a farm, right? Where it's only raising animals.
Yeah,
And
because in my head, you say that, I'm thinking farmland.
We've gotten cows. We've
Yeah,
gotten cows.
free cows.
If you buy enough land,
conveys with the property.
you get free houses.
Yeah.
So like we always make a joke about like, oh, why would you buy a house if you get it for free if you buy enough land?
hmm Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's the definition textbook? I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, in my mind, farms, it's like more like agricultural based, like animals, raising animals, cows, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then I think a ranch is the kind of production. So there might be a little bit of everything. There might be animals. There might be some growing going on there.
Gotcha.
That kind of stuff. But in my mind, I'm just imagining it's a big giant tract of
Mm.
land that nobody's using outside of the city, right?
Okay. But there's got to be some parameters as well,
Yeah.
right? Like, what's the minimum size?
Right now, we've done smaller stuff, but we're looking for 20 acres or more,
Mhm.
just because if it's a 10-acre rule, we can at least cut that into 2 lots,
Mhm.
minimum.
Mentally, I'm thinking about 100 acres and up. So recently, we checked on MLS, and that was the first search. We did 100 acres and up. And the cool thing about land is the bigger the property is, the easier it gets, right? You need that initial cash injection. You need that earnest money, or the option money, the engineering money.
Yeah.
But a bigger ranch has a lot more profit involved, right? So if you bought a 20-acre lot, you can easily split that into 10 and 10. You're done in 2 or 3 months. It's a done deal.
Right.
But again, the profit's kind of like if you're going to put in 10, 20, 30,000 and you only pull out 50. But if you buy a 243-acre ranch and you extract $1 million in 4 weeks or something,
Yeah.
right? So the bigger the properties, the more leverage that's in there. So in some cases, we contract the property, we do our magic on it, and we sell a small portion of the property and pay it off. And the
Right.
rest is ours, free and clear.
What states are you guys buying in?
Mostly Texas. We're looking at other states. We've done some deals in Florida, but Texas is just there's so much opportunity there. We're just looking anywhere in Texas.
Gotcha. And then there's got to be some sort of like, has to be a certain distance from town or something,
Yeah. So
right? You're not doing it like 100 miles out of town.
So this is where we differentiate from a lot of other land people, is that they like the desert squares. You can get a lot for $500 with $87 down. I'm like, yeah, you could do that, and I think if you start there, that's perfectly fine. But I like buying land where people want to be, because I can charge more for it. I can get a really great opportunity for it, and I can move it faster if I buy it where people want to be. So usually we like being within. Think of like the city as a donut. If you think of Austin, cut out Austin and then go around Austin, and that's our buffer zone. So we're usually within 45 minutes to an hour of any major city, and that's where all the money's being made right now.
So are you at a point where like city lights are still there? Or
No.
we're past city lights?
In some cases, no.
We're past city lights.
Okay.
Yeah. So think about, I'm thinking in my mind, like a good 10 to 20 miles out is amazing, because that's an easy commute back and forth.
Yep.
Right.
30 minutes is still good. 45 minutes, you're getting questionable.
Mhm.
I think the cutoff mark is about 60 miles. Once you're an hour out, yeah, you're kind of like in no man's land. 61 miles, you're done.
Right.
So yeah, I would say 30 minutes or under, 10 minutes better. So that's what we're looking for. Like the 243 we bought, it's like 10 miles right outside Loop 1604 in San Antonio. So
I see.
in my mind, that's still the city, even though there's no lights out there.
So for you, it's that you really can't lose because you can always force appreciation in
No matter
land.
what. Yeah.
And for you, you can basically act like a wholesaler and flipper without the stress of actually dealing with the property.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. If it's so easy, why isn't everyone doing it?
Not enough information is, I think, is my point. There's not enough people information, and we've had to block people like, hey, you're teaching too much about land. Like this is
The what people?
You get to a point to where that these deals are so profitable that people get mad when you're giving out public information, like saying, like, teaching on YouTube, like, hey, this is how you do land. People are like, dude, that's like our best kept secret for the last 100 years, and you guys are blowing it for us.
Gotcha.
So for one, people keep the information close to the chest. There is a capital barrier to entry, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes these ranchers or farmers or whatever, they want like 50,000 earnest money, 100,000 of earnest money. It's not a joke, right? You can't put down $100 on some of this stuff, and you can, because we've done it,
Right.
but it's not as simple.
It's not the norm.
Yeah. Then you get it under contract. Now, what the heck do I do? So average wholesaler goes out, they get it under contract, and then they start blasting it out, trying to sell the whole 200-acre tract. And we get an inbox. They want 7.4 million, has to close in 2 weeks. Like, sure, guy. Ain't going to happen. So you have to know who is your buyer, right? You have to have the capital in place to be able to put the earnest money down. A ranch that we're doing entitlements on right now, we're aiming for like 500,000 in entitlements. So you do have to have some capital to play. And that's where, we come in with our students, is we say, hey, look, if you guys find the deal, we'll negotiate it, close it, contract it, we'll put up the capital.
Got it. So you're basically the OPM
Yeah.
for your students.
Yeah.
Okay. So then how does that work? You're using other you're
We're
the
using
lender.
an OPM, but we're operating as a lender.
So you are taking capital from elsewhere
Mhm.
and then you're the bank here. So kind of like not quite private money, it's not quite hard money, but it's some sort of hybrid.
Well, it's private because we don't run anything on anybody. So if a
Mhm.
student brings a deal, we don't care what their financials look like or the credit or anything. We
Right.
underwrite the deal,
Right.
and that's it. So we
But it's
say,
not your money.
yeah, we had to grab from somewhere else, and that's still private too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll have guys just shoot us over the cash and say, hey,
Mhm.
you guys want to get on this? We need 550. Let's do it. Send it
Gotcha.
over. Done. They're not underwriting the deals either.
Well,
They're
they-
just going based on our reputation.
no, it's their money. They're just trusting in you. So
That's it.
what are you guys typically borrowing at from your lenders?
The percentage,
The rate.
the rate. Oh, dude.
This is the best part. We've been paying our lenders like 50 to 100%.
Wow.
Whatever they want is the answer.
Whatever
Whatever
Wow.
they want.
whatever they want. And like the thing is like the best way to get more private capital is to overpay for private capital, and they open up their wallet.
Yeah.
So we've been overpaying since we started, and that's how we're able to get millions now
Mhm.
at our fingertips because we're overpaying our capital.
Yeah.
So it's a long-term play because everybody struggles. Like if you had unlimited wallet, what would you buy? I'm like, whatever I wanted, you know? So if you can get good capital at good opportunities, and we're creating such large spreads, I'm like, hey, I can share this ROI with the lender
Mhm.
because it's not my money. If I can make $500,000 with your money, like, hey, how much ROI do you want? You know,
Right.
it's a different conversation where a house or apartment, like it's limited capital. Like if I give too much equity to the lender, it ruins my cap rate.
Mhm.
Right.
You
So,
know,
but you say 50 to 100%. Like I give you 100 grand, you can give me 200 grand. Is that what we're talking about?
sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes,
No problem. And sometimes more. Sometimes
Yeah.
over 100%. It just really depends on the deal.
But that can't be sustainable over a long period of time.
Well, the thing is that if the deal flow keeps coming in,
Mhm.
like right now, I think we measured our pipelines over 100 million right now.
Gotcha.
So every time we do a deal, if we're looking at making $1 million or $2 million or $4 million,
Mhm.
and the lender's like, hey, I'll put in an M, but I want 2 back, like pencil it out, works fantastic.
Mhm.
So the only thing, it still works out. So I think that's why, like right now, we're focusing on the capital raising part because
Are you at times giving them more profit than you? Are they walking with more than you are?
no. I think the highest
we did that at the beginning because we would like lock in rates,
Mhm.
but now we're getting like, okay, we had a deal, we're gonna make 100 on it, so we're like, yeah, we'll give you 50 grand back, and we ended up getting a haircut on it, and we ended up making like 30 grand, and the
Mhm.
lender made 30 grand. So like, it was still
Yeah.
a deal.
I think
Yeah.
right now we're maxing out like at about 50% profit. Yeah, you guys
Okay.
put up the cash, we'll put the intellectual capital and we'll split it.
Mhm.
Then we'll stop there. But there's no way we're gonna go in there and make 300 and the lender makes $1 million. And we'll stop at 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And that makes total sense to me. Okay.
Yeah.
So how are you guys? So you guys aren't spending money on pay-per-click right now or anything. So
Zero.
if someone wanted to go get land right now, what are you telling people how to market to get land?
Tell them, Daniel. Tell them. Just tell them.
Go to Zillow.com and find stuff that's listed and make offers.
Dude, you
Yeah.
can go shopping on the MLS, bro.
That 200 acres, we picked up 30 cents on the dollar on the MLS for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Just chilling.
Shooting fish in the barrel, bro. Nobody's playing. Nobody's playing the game. I pulled a list just in the San Antonio area of ranches that are 100 acres and up,
Mhm.
82 listings.
So the thing is that most people in the land space, they usually deal 100,000 or less. The higher in price point, just like houses, there's less players that operate at that price point.
Mhm.
So what we're learning is that the more we go up in price, the less people are playing at that level. So all the people on the MLS, like we need motivated sellers. Land sellers are not motivated. They've been sitting on that land for 50 years.
Mhm.
So what's the high max motivation of that? It's on the MLS. They already raised their hand. They signed a contract with an agent.
Mhm.
They're motivated right
Right.
now to sell. So we just count that as like, hey, that's motivation enough for us,
Mhm.
and it's just time. So we make the offer, we wait. They come back 6 months, 12 months later. We had a deal. The lady wanted 1.3 for a property. We made our offer, nothing. They came back 14 months later. We bought it for 350.
Mhm.
350. And she probably got beat up by wholesalers in the midst of all that, locked up her property for 6 months,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So that people, time wears them down,
Mhm.
where they come to their senses and like, hey, Dan and Anthony, they made a sensible offer. Let me go back and see if they'll give it to me again.
So you guys come in, if my math is correct, about 25%,
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So
I mean, it's different for every property because we're underwriting it based off of what it actually is worth. Because some of these sellers are like, "Oh, I want." And this is for everybody here. It's like 5 acres sold for 50,000 an acre, so I want 50,000 an acre for my 500-acre ranch. I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't math out like that.
It doesn't math out like that. So the bigger the property, the less price per acre you get for it, and the price per acre goes larger as smaller the tract.
right.
Hence, you can get an
That's
acre.
why your model works.
That's why it works. It's the wholesale model with Costco. You buy in bulk and you sell it by whatever, however you want.
I think something that works in our favor is there's no true measuring stick for the comps,
There's no comps.
right? So a lot of times, probably 20 or more times, agents have told us like, you're never going to sell it for that. Nothing's ever sold for that in that area, and we immediately create new comps.
All right.
Yeah. So I think that's something that's cool that works. So you say like, do we buy at 25 cents? Well, 25 cents of what? Right, 25% of the listed price, right? Because the agent came in and told them that it was worth 3x of what they were told, that they could get for it. When in reality, the way we break it down is what would a 10-acre tract sell for. So if they had a 100-acre tract or a 200-acre tract, we don't care about any of that. What can I sell 10 acres for? And then we back into the deal that way.
Gotcha.
And so we're not necessarily looking at comps like to say, hey, well,
So 200-acre tract sold for 20 million. So that's what we're going to buy it for. Like it doesn't even.
Yeah,
That
you're buying
isn't even.
based off your exit strategy.
we're just looking at that one lens. And then like comps kind of count, but they kind of don't. Right. And I'll tell you why. So let's say that everything around there is selling for 150 an acre, but we know damn well that it's close enough to the city that we can easily get 199. We're just going to roll with what we think we can get for it.
Right.
And kind of that's like our magic exit is at 150 to like 250 for a 10-acre tract. So as long as we can hit that demographic, then we're done, especially seller finance, right? Because these guys can't go to the bank or the credit union and get seller financing. So if we say, hey, look, everything around there is selling for 150 to 179, we don't care. We're still going to push it out at 250 with 10% down. And I know we can get it every single time because they only need 25 grand to buy.
Gotcha. So you came out to my training, and I'm kind of heartbroken right now. It sounds like you didn't even use it. It sounds like you just did everything by email.
He used all the same closes, but he just typed them out instead of saying them.
I really did. That's 100% fact. I used your sales script and I was typing it out 100%. So
you never used the lines on actual homeowners.
No, I never did because I used it through email, and then after I met him, he was doing all the sales calls. I'm like, Anthony, you're up. And I didn't have to practice with it. So
Gotcha.
And it was one of those things where I gave him the script, and then he was like, "Oh, I use a version of this." So he like modified and created his own little version of it because he's already a sales guy.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it was no offense to you.
I'm not offended. I'm just heartbroken. Right? You spent hard-earned money on it, right?
I did. That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember the sales call. As a matter of fact, it might be recorded. It might be on my Dropbox if I wanted to pull it up. So, all right. So then the next thing you're talking about is then raising capital. So what is the vision for raising capital?
I think the vision right now is when you get to larger amounts of capital, you have to create the right vehicle for people to invest in. They're not going to invest in Steve Trang LLC just because it's not an offense to you, but you don't have the right vehicle to receive and oversight. So what's the next step is a fund. So a fund is SEC regulated. You have certain rules and parameters you have to fall under. And then people with higher net worths are willing to put capital into that structure because it feels safer. Not that it is, do your own due diligence, but it feels safer because it's regulated.
Yeah.
And the flip side of this is you can do a fund for any type of model you want, including up to losing $80 million of apartments.
We're not attacking anyone here.
We're not talking about anyone here. If you felt offended, it's because it was meant for you. No names. Right. But it's one of those things where like you can, and a lot of people that run the fund model, they get paid to acquire, they get paid to dispose, they get paid for management. And like our whole fund is like, I don't really care about any of those things. We're running the fund at cost. We'll pay out of our own pocket. I just need money to invest because every time we create a note and sell it, we're giving an ROI to that lender. If I can sell my note to the fund, I can give the ROI to somebody I know and trust and like versus giving it to somebody I don't know and like and trust.
Right.
So if I can wash my left hand with my right, I'd rather do that and create the right fund structure. That way I can keep doing the transaction I want and fill that cash burn problem.
Right.
So I think the vision for the fund is, of course, we need the initial capital, right, for the earnest money, the surveys, the engineering, that kind of thing. We're going to take that ranch and we're going to property farm, whatever you want to do, right? Somebody's like, this one's not a ranch, it's a farm. We're going to take that property and we're going to convert it into both notes and cash, right? And again, like if the market gets weak, then the note game gets soft and you can't get rid of the notes. So the idea of having the capital in place is that we can redeploy the same capital over and over and over again, right? So lenders put in 100 million, right? We're going to raise 100 million for our first raise, 4 rounds of 25 million. We have one soft commitment for 20 already.
Nice.
Right. So people kind of see the vision of what we're doing. We want to have the capital in place so that if we do get to a point to where the ranch is sold out and we have a stack of notes, we can sell them to ourselves effectively, right? And then redeploy that capital again. So use that cash flow to pay back the lenders that put their in if they're getting a 18%
create distributions as well.
Whatever it is, that capital that's sitting there at 12% interest can go right back to the investors, right? Because that thing's recycling every month. It reloads and keeps paying those people down without us having to pull from our capital pool. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to take that capital and just recycle it into new deals, use the notes to pay down the investors over the time.
Gotcha. So the notes you've created to sell, or the notes you've created to sell the land that you've subdivided, right, to the end buyers. You're taking those notes and you're selling those notes to the fund?
Yep. That's the intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So it's, are you selling the notes to the fund? I mean, this might be too technical here.
Let's go deep.
But at what value are you selling the notes?
So we would like to sell them at like 80% the value, because even like that, it creates like a 15% yield. And then if the seller pays back early, it actually increases the yield, which mostly have sellers that pay back early. So our target for the fund is, we're definitely going to, no guarantees, but there's, I gotta be careful here.
Yeah. You do have to be careful with this stuff. It's true.
No, this is one of the
pretty
things.
good way to go to prison.
Yeah. So like we're offering 12% preferred return, because we know we're creating 12% notes. So if we sell them discounted, we're going to create higher yield at that point. And then if the note ever pays back early, or if we have to restructure the loan, as the note just goes. And that's the other thing too. There's 3 things you can do whenever a note comes due. You restructure like you did in COVID. You foreclose like they did in 2008. Or what investors do is they do cash for keys and resell it again.
Right.
So we have those options and availability without actually selling that note to John Smith over here, who's just going to do that by himself. We actually hold it within the fund structure and have the ability to recycle and recapture that note if it ever comes defaulted.
So before my next question, for those that are listening, what is a pref return? Because we're using some fancy terms here.
Yeah. A pref return is essentially a not guaranteed rate of return, but it's a preferred return that your fund is offering in your PPM to your investors that invest into your fund.
So what we're saying is, if you give us $10 million, we would like to give you back 12%. That's our target, right? That's what the preferred rate of return is.
And this is secured by real estate, 80% loan to value in good assets that we can always restructure and repurpose.
Gotcha. 12% sounds really high. And I understand that your notes are at 12%, but just because your notes are 12%, why would you offer a pref return? Because you can pay more.
Absolutely.
So why would you? Because a pref it's not a guarantee, but it feels like a guarantee. Right? So why would you offer a number that's higher and make you like? Wouldn't it be better to potentially under promise and over deliver versus setting a high expectation?
Well, it's a juggling act. You got to kind of do whatever it is. But my whole thing is that a lot of larger capitals are looking for good and safe investments. So we want to make sure they get a good, safe investment with a high rate of return, because we're creating notes at 12%. So 12% is in.
Well, I'm not saying don't give a good return.
No,
I'm saying
you're saying how can you guarantee that much?
Yeah, right. Like it's because yes, you can hit it. Right. It's that whole deal of under promise and over deliver versus like setting really high expectations, and then the one time you don't hit it, now everyone's upset.
So here's the other thing too. So all the assets we're buying are usually 50% loan to value. So if we were to hold and create these notes ourselves, we'd be getting a 50 to 60% ROI on our capital for 30 years.
Yeah.
So giving it 18% return is very minimal for that fund structure. So it's really easy. I mean, we talk about we're paying our lenders right now 50
Yeah.
to 100%.
Yeah,
18%.
that
is,
one I can't pencil out. We're gonna have to
it-
we're gonna have to sit down with a spreadsheet with that one. That
18
one's not making sense in my head.
18%.
It's not that I don't believe you. I just can't get it around my head.
18% is it's easy
Mhm.
for what we do because I can buy $100,000 lot. I can buy $100,000 lot for 80 grand and provide a 15% return,
Mhm.
just
Fig-
like that
Figure
instantly.
the target of our average deal on these bigger ranches is at least 50 to 100% minimum,
Mhm.
right? That's not even including on the back end.
But this isn't the 10% we're looking for in flips.
Oh no! This is a totally different
if we
model.
buy for if we spend $1 million in cash, we want to pull 2 out of the deal,
Mhm.
right? Typically, it's not our cash, right? So it's dead eights, infinite returns, 12% for the notes alone,
Mhm.
and then that's not even including partials. That's not even including us taking it to the next level through the entitlement process.
Yeah.
So where if we get a ranch with 5 or 10% down, we're 100,000 into the deal, and we
Mhm.
pull out $1 million in cash at the end of it in 12 to 24 months. So it makes 12 like insignificant. Like if somebody said, "Hey, I'll lend you $100 million at 12%," like, can I get 2?
Right.
It's such a low target for us.
Mhm.
Even if we took 0 and just paid the 12, it's still fine.
Yeah.
It's just one deal, right? When you have an infinite lead flow. So I think that's something that makes us a little bit dangerous.
Mhm.
Is that we if you can't go out and raise $100 million if you have a $10 million pipeline, right?
Right.
You might find yourself upside down pretty quick.
Yeah.
But we have our lead flow is so tremendous that we could replace a loss, no problem. Right?
Mhm.
Let's say we don't hit a target on a deal, and we only make 11%, right? And we're 1% short now. But on the next one, we do 5x, right?
Right.
Real easy to soften up that 1 point.
Mhm. You said you got a soft commit from 20 mil for 20 mil.
From one person.
How did
Yeah.
you get a soft commit for that? Is it someone that you already have a working relationship with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Somebody that came from inside of our community.
Okay. How did you get that? So you said within the community. Was this an investor in the community, the student in the community, or a referral from a student inside your community?
It's actually, it was a referral from somebody inside the community. It was a
Gotcha.
family member.
Gotcha.
Yep. And he said, "Hey, this guy has some money to spend. He wants to talk to you guys." And it started out small. I think the first time they went in with us was 200,000. We paid them back 100,000 in under 12 months. And they thought that was amazing.
200 turned to 300.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In under 12 months.
So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people would be happy with that return.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too is like we like try and like get long-term guidelines, but if we complete it faster, say we did that in 6 months, that's 100% annualized return.
So that's another thing we do with our lenders before the fund, right? This fund has not launched yet, but if we pay them the same rate of return no matter when it closes. So if we take cash and we finish the deal in 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, they get a flat rate.
Right.
So they said, "Hey, yeah, we'll park it with you guys for a year or 2 years. But if the deal's over in 3 or 4 months, they get all their money back right away." And then
So-
what happens is they get really excited and they're ready
Oh,
to
they're
go
real
in
happy.
again. And then they call their friends and their friends and their friends. And now, we have the capital is kind of starting to stack up now. People are starting to call us and say, "Hey, can you guys use 400? Hey, can you use 800? Hey, can you guys use 200?" And we're like, "Yes, but hang on."
Right.
Right. So we make sure that like if we bought a B deal or a B plus deal, amazing. One of the best deals we've ever done in our lives. But for our investors, we look for like A and A plus deals. Like we got to stop buying A deals. Let's do all A plus now. So we're extra careful with other people's capital, more so than what we would be with our own.
Gotcha. So you guys also have a CRM.
Yeah.
Right, I'm seeing this on your shirt. It's not in the talking points here, but clearly you guys have the CRM. So talk to me. You guys, somewhere along the line, started a CRM.
Yep.
And started a podcast.
Mhm.
Right. We've only been talking about land this whole time.
Yeah.
Right. So like, what is your guys' core focus?
I'll take it first.
Go ahead.
So having a marketing and an MLM background, it kind of gave me the vision for what you can do in numbers and volume, right? So when I started decided I was going to focus on land, I noticed that these big deals with these big spreads are tough to find. Not gonna lie, right? Especially when you're not going straight to the MLS like we are now.
Right.
So I had a vision is what if we created a mastermind where we just taught people how to go out and find these big deals, right? Because they were so hard to find. So what do? Other people's money, other people's time, right? To be able to scale this thing. So that was the vision. Like, what if we could teach a community of people how to go out and find these deals, bring them to us, and then we'll do the experting on the background, raise the capital, and close them. So a mastermind was the first vision. But I said, if somebody joins a mastermind on Monday, 30 days later, they're out. Right? That's pretty cool. I'm out of here. So I thought, what would be a sticky product to keep them here? So all we did was just white label GHL.
Mhm.
We came up with the idea in December. We launched February 1 or something,
Mhm.
February 2. So like it was like under a 6-week launch
Right.
because we didn't want to be known for our CRM and having the best CRM in the world.
Mhm.
We just needed somebody to download a bunch of data,
Mhm.
right? Put a bunch of information in here, start to use the product.
and market.
So it would be a little stickier than just picking up all of your toys and going home after
Right.
being in for 30 days.
Yeah.
So that's all it was. It was a way for us to create a mastermind with a very sticky product so
Mhm.
that it's not so easy to leave. And of course, the brand's more recognizable than being Daniel Martinez,
Mhm.
LLC. They'd rather be
Yeah.
in something that has a name and a tag on it. So that's all it was. It's kind of just a faux product
Mhm.
for us to build a brand and build a name
Yeah.
for ourselves.
Well, and it's worked, right? It's a brilliant idea because I'm actually copying that same exact idea,
Sick. Okay.
right? It's we have our sales community,
Mhm.
it's for 97 a month, but community is not sticky.
Mm-hmm.
But if they buy a sales CRM for $97 a month, that also includes sales training, they'll stick around forever,
Yeah,
or at least that's the hope,
Yeah.
right?
it works.
Yeah. Well, clearly, right? I mean, this is something that let's see. Russell Brunson, right? He's the one that's got the linchpin deal. I don't know. Do you pay attention to him?
I know of him. I just don't know what he offers or what he
Yeah.
does. I know
Well, his whole
Click
thing
Funnels,
is all about spending as much money to get someone into a product that they'll never, right?
Mm-hmm.
But education is a product people will leave all day,
Yeah.
right? So how do you get in the stick?
That was it. That was the only idea, man.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to build something from the ground up. And
Mhm.
then Daniel finds GHL. He's like, dude, let's just use this.
Mhm.
And in my mind, instead of pushing back, like, I'm the visionary, we got to do it my way. I'm like, dude, how long would it take us to set this up? He's like, we can be up and running in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Do it.
Which I think is much shorter today.
It's
Yeah.
not shorter today for sure.
Yeah. Now we can put stuff up in a day or two, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and our whole thing, and I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit, is our entry into the marketplace. Everybody wants to be influential in the real estate community, but like
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ways you could do it. So you have coaching, which it's very clogged because everybody wants to be a coach.
Mhm.
So then you
Especially
have
after you do one deal.
Yeah.
after you want to be a coach after you do your first deal. So then
Yeah.
like there's 10,000 people trying to go up the coaching route.
Mhm.
And then you got the book and everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna write a book and
Mhm.
I'm gonna be influential that way.
Right.
And then there's speaking and
Mhm.
events, which people go up that way. And then they're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, there's like everybody going up the coaching and the event speaking around.
Mhm.
Like if I can speak at every event, I'll pay you, whatever,
Mhm.
pay to get on. And then like there's
People
products
pay to get on to speak.
Oh, yeah. Come
Yeah,
on.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
a whole thing. Yeah. You don't even have to
No.
be famous. You just drop some stacks and you're on stage.
See, that's crazy, right? Because like I'm at a point now where they're like, hey, you want to speak? It's like, you want to pay me? And they're like, no. It's like, oh, okay.
I'm not going.
I'm not
We got one
going.
of those from Houston. They're like, hey, we want you guys to come speak. Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Let us know when. Okay, it's $5,000. We're like, we ain't going. You need to give us $5,000 to go. And I still might not go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
So
and
people pay? Wow. Okay.
it's a tough world out there.
I had no idea.
So like, and our thing is,
So they're
like,
doing me a favor by letting me speak for free.
yes,
Yeah. Lucky you.
yes, and like I said, even for us, like we're getting content out of it. We'll pay a videographer, we'll get an Airbnb, we're gonna drop some money while we're there. So I'm not paying to show up at your event. I'm
Right.
sorry, like, I'm just not doing it.
And then not to toot our own horn or nothing, but I think we're doing pretty good. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing great.
yeah, I say if we go on your stage, like I think we're gonna bring some information that people have never heard before. It's a
Mhm.
unique strategy.
Yeah.
It's something again that people keep very, very private.
Mhm.
So like if you invite us to speak, like I think we're blessing the community, right?
Right.
So we're not gonna also pay. Like even
Yeah.
if you offered us cash, like I still don't want to be away from my wife and the kids. I'd rather just stay home.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, right? It's like what I'm asking for and no one will agree to. So,
So
okay, so you were saying, so speaking,
podcasting is
Mhm.
another route, and
Right.
then products or services.
Mhm.
So I think podcasting and product services are like the least path of resistance.
Mhm.
So we started Hivemind. We just hit 3 years old, February 2021. So we're 3 years now.
Congratulations.
It was through
Thank you,
it was
man.
through that, and then we did that for 9 months. I started the podcast 9 months later, 2021,
Mhm.
and I just went hard on it. I mean, I was doing like 5-10 episodes a week for a long time, and I would
Mhm.
release 5 a week for a very long time. So we're like 476 episodes right
Nuts.
now,
Yeah.
300 hours of content. I keep KPIs now.
Yeah. That's great.
300 hours of content, which is like 12 days.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, so we got the podcast, we got the product services. Now we're speaking,
Mhm.
and then we're working on a book. We want to release a book. So it's like you kind of come through different ways, but you got to figure out what that first way is that you're going to enter the marketplace.
Mhm.
So like Hivemind CRM is kind of like our brand, but Hivemind's our brand that we're kind of following into because we don't want to do this forever. Like I don't want to be that dude that has to show up at every event and like I'm good. Like if I can create a brand that enters into the marketplace and I can put somebody else to run it eventually, then that's all in our goal.
I'll tell you something embarrassing. We launched the coaching program, and the minimum was 25,000, the middle one was 50,000, and the top was 100,000. And we got
What was the lowest one?
25,000.
25, 50, 100.
So now that we got students, we don't want to coach anymore. We don't want people to just be randomly calling our phones and blowing us up. So like, dude, if we get another 20 students, I'm quitting. Right. So we prefer the method of do a community, let everybody in the group learn, and then they can just bring us the deals as they come in, submit them through the portal. But that one-on-one coaching stuff, like, we're done with it at any price tag.
Yeah.
We just rather just do deals.
One-on-one coaching is really tough.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So like it's been an interesting. We've been kind of diving down different things, but I think our model it's going to be interesting because land is a harder barrier to entry because of all the other problems you come into. And once we solve that money problem on the front end, we can be their lead source to lead contract to lead cash infusion to buy and take down the deal to lead disposition and all the way to the end, even to the note side on the back end. So we can I handed one of my students, he was struggling a little bit. I'm like, hey, here's a deal. You're going to make money on it if you do ABC. So he went through the whole process and he's like, I'll 50-50 the deal with you. We're like, okay, that's amazing. I'm not doing anything with that transaction. You go do it. We'll put up half the money. We'll put up all that stuff. But now he's doing the transaction A to Z and I'm not even participating into it. He had a deal where one of our students found a lead. He had a buyer in that area that buys, and we gave him the lead. He's going to send us some money for that deal that we didn't participate in.
Right.
So I think like in the spirit of multi-level marketing and network marketing, it's like we just need the people, right? They're the distribution channel.
They're the distribution channel for everything.
Yeah, I think focusing on teaching people the game, let them go out and pick up the deals, and also they're doing the work. Right? Because like having to go through the sales process of selling like 10 or 20 parcels, talking to engineers and visiting the site, those kinds of things, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
So like, how could we scale this thing? For one, the capital, right? So the fund, most important part, so that we can bankroll the people that are out there doing the deals. What does that lead to? That leads to our students bringing in us a deal saying, hey, I need to borrow $2 million. Okay, cool. We'll put up the capital, but now we don't have to participate in the deal at all. Right? So we'll lend you the capital at a very high rate, some kind of partnership or something. And then on the back end, we could even be the note buyer. Right. So we're doing deals now passively, where the students are out there doing everything and we're not doing anything, just putting the capital.
And there's no overhead from employees, which is the best part.
How is there no overhead?
Because we're not paying till they produce, just like a salesperson.
Yeah. So who is analyzing the deal?
So we analyze the deal because essentially we're the one bringing the capital. So we'll help analyze and negotiate up front, and they're just bringing in extra capital.
And we have a team. We have about 5 people that are there with us that are still underwriting. They've been around us enough to know what we're looking for. So they'll take a first look at it, make sure it's something that we're interested in or that they think we might be interested in. And then they'll send it to one of us for the final blessing.
So we had an event in October. We do an event every year. One of the speakers, he's not real estate based. Daniel Burke-Aguero, told me to give him a shout out. So he was not real estate based. He's kind of like on the coaching side of helping people kind of get their mindset and their personal side in order to get their business in order. So no real estate experience. He came, spoke at our event from a referral from somebody in our community. And he's like, can I try this? You guys teach me? I'm like, yeah. I mean, here's what we do, how we do it. And he just went running feet first, kind of figured it out. He found a deal in 31 days. He cold called for like 20, 30 hours, just cold calling agents, just exactly what we talked about. He found that deal we bought in January for 243 acres. So we're paying him like $100,000 for his month of work that he found to find that deal. And it's just amazing. Like I've never had somebody like go from 0 to 100 so fast. And now he's like, I think I got 3 more deals based off of your underwriting parameters. I think they're going to fit the box where you're going to fund it. And we're going to look at it when we get back home.
It's that each one teach one model.
Yeah.
Right. So once somebody learns it, then they can teach their peer group 2, 3, 4 people. So that's why it has kind of like that MLM structure.
Oh, it definitely has an MLM structure.
So eventually, maybe we'll have 10,000 people out there doing deals for us, and we're just providing the capital.
So we have Anthony's a visionary, and he has an opportunity in his mind that we'll do 1,000 transactions in a day
inside of the organization.
Inside the organization, like how do you do that? It's a lot of people and processes, and it's not you on the whip, cranking the whip behind somebody to make sure they work. It's them going out there and doing it because you
Yeah.
provided all the tools for them to do it, and they're just doing it because it's profitable.
Right. I love it. So, what does someone get if they're using the Hivemind CRM?
They get, for one, access, right? So it's us doing a 1 weekly coaching call. They get the CRM, and the
Mhm.
CRM can be a pain in the butt, right?
Mhm.
So you got to get in there, you got to set it up, you got to upload your list, you got to set your automations, you got to have all these different pipelines and automated responses.
Right.
Our customer service department does it for them,
Mhm.
so it's completely hands off. Like you don't even have to know how to use it. For one, they get access to the community knowledge. We literally help. Like we'll jump on the phone and negotiate. We'll
Yeah.
go out and raise the capital. So all it is, like it's like us like shining a the Batman signal.
Mhm.
It's the Hive Mind signal. Like come
Yeah.
check this out, guys. Trust me, it'll be
Yeah.
worthwhile. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, if someone wants to join, I'm looking here, hiveminddisruptors.com, HIVEMIND disruptors.com, or text RED to 210-972-1842.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay. And then if they join that, then they get access to you guys in the group coaching to learn in greater detail what we talked about today.
That's
Absolutely.
it.
Gotcha. All right. I mean, that sounds like a steal.
We think it is.
We think it is. Like
Yeah.
we have a student. He was working at Costco. He had a few opportunities to come up, and it takes people like 6 months or so to kind of understand what we're looking for.
Mhm.
Some people pick it up faster, and I think it's based off your individual like knowledge and skill level. But I mean, we have like single mom in there. She's got a few opportunities we're working on. Like it's just cool to see people working and creating large opportunities that they might not even. And we tell people, don't buy it with your wallet.
Mhm.
You're not buying these deals with your wallet because we're gonna get creative finance.
Yeah.
So and we'll raise the money. So if you're a part of the community, you have access to all of our resources
Mhm.
just by being a part of it.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
you have like new students making 50,000, 100,000 right assignment fees on their first deal. The mailman made 50,000 on his first deal.
Mhm.
One of our students is going to make over $1 million on his first deal. So
Great first deal.
yeah, it's a pretty cool niche to be in. I don't think that points to like the genius of
Mhm.
Daniel or myself.
Mhm.
It's just where there's bigger numbers involved. There's a lot more profit involved, and I think in my mind, somebody
Mhm.
sends me a 4 acre tract, and I get butterflies. Like, I don't want to look at it.
Mhm.
I don't want to put that much time and energy into something that's going to produce, small
Right.
ROI. But if somebody sends us 100 acres, we're all
Mhm.
over it.
Right.
We're like, oh dang, where's this at?
What are we talk about, like the upside and like it sounds fairly simple.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily easy, but fairly simple. It's not really complicated. There's not a ton of moving parts. And you were saying earlier, like if it's if you didn't if it's not a great deal, you can force appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
What's the downside with the strategy?
I think buying too far away from the city where there's no buyers.
Mhm.
So we bought 100 acres in a place called Orange Grove, Texas last year, and we still have like 30% of it after about a year.
Mhm.
Right? We got it for super cheap, but it's not moving. Right.
Right.
So I think that getting stuck with the property, we found a group of investors by Dallas that
Mhm.
bought 3 ranches to do the same strategy. The guy that led them into this strategy didn't know what the heck he was doing.
Mhm.
And now they went in. How much did they go into the deal?
They bought it too high, and then they borrowed against it to get timber equipment.
No, but
Yeah.
what do they got total cash out of pocket into it?
Oh, it's like they bought 250 acres for 3.5 million.
Mhm.
So their average like 12,000 an acre, and we would have bought it at 9 and exited at 18. They bought it at like 12, 13, and they incurred debt where now they're at like 17, 18 per acre. So now there's no way to exit the property without large cash injection.
Mhm.
So that's the next thing now. So now you got 3.5 million stuck into a deal, and the only way to get out of it is to raise more capital to force appreciation on it. So
Got it.
there's a problem. Um, Going in 50,000 worth of engineering and earnest money and all that, and then it turns out you can't do what you thought you wanted to do with the
Mhm.
property, or after us having it under contract for 3 months or 6 months, there's no buyers coming,
Mhm.
right? So now you've already because we don't wait to close. We start engineering immediately. We start surveying off, like we're ready to go,
Yeah.
right? So normally we try to make sure that it's a sure bet before we
Mhm.
go into it, but yeah, you can lose $10,000 or $50,000 worth of earnest money on a single deal. So I think even more reason to have that guidance going with somebody who's experienced as opposed to
Yeah.
just saying like, "Oh, I saw that podcast on Real
Mhm.
Estate Disruptors. Those guys are doing it. We could do it too."
Right.
I think
Well,
that
it's really
yeah.
easy to forget about the things that can go wrong,
Mhm.
right? Because we hear things
Absolutely.
like, "Oh, that sounds great. I'm gonna go jump in all in and this and that." So paying too much, which is, I mean, I guess is an experience component, or guidance component,
Mhm.
and then buying too far, which is really the same thing as paying too much. I mean, you shouldn't buy it at all if it's too far.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think paying with your own cash.
Mhm.
One thing that we've noticed, and this is crazy, land has trillions of dollars of dead equity.
Mhm.
It's dead
Yeah.
in the property just sitting there. They've owned it for 50 years and it's passed on generation to generation.
Mhm.
And it's literally, it takes something like us to unlock it.
Mhm.
So it's to your detriment to pay cash for things. There's people that do what we do, they buy everything cash. I'm like, why would you buy it cash?
Mhm.
You're crazy. Every one of these sellers has equity. You can ask for seller financing. I don't care how much they want down. If it's a good opportunity and you get that thing with 50% down, buy that deal
Mhm.
because you can leverage seller financing.
Right.
So there's a lot of equity there that you can play with and maneuver and get creative with. And I'll
Yeah.
leave it at that.
I was going to point at some other landmines. You can come across endangered species,
Oh yeah,
right?
Florida.
Floodlands, wetlands.
Mhm.
Just like you can get pushback from the county. So right now we're looking at buying a deal west of San Antonio where the developers pissed off the city and the county.
Mhm.
So now they don't want to do business with them. They're making it extremely difficult for them to be able to do business there. So those are some landmines, things that you got to watch out for. Type of soil that's on property, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes if you're looking to do a development and it's not the best for like septic systems, that kind of thing. Uh,
No access to utilities.
no groundwater, right?
Yep.
In Texas, we have groundwater, right?
Mhm.
So if there's no public utility district or co-op water, you can drill wells and you can produce water that way.
Mhm.
But in some areas, there's no groundwater at all. So again, it's just like knowing what all those little nuances are, and I think just following somebody in right into your
Yeah.
first handful of deals, and then after that, you can go off on your own and do whatever
Right.
you wanted to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely lots of pitfalls.
Yeah.
Not
Getting
careful.
some guidance.
Yeah.
So, why? What is your why?
Man, if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said my family.
Mhm.
But I think once you get yourself comfortable and you get your family comfortable, my mind's automatically starting to go, well, how big can we scale this thing?
Mhm.
Right? Because I see a lot of things that are happening around the globe, right? With famine and limited access to resources. When I was doing that solar company, I was trying to track leads for people that wanted solar. So I threw an ad on Facebook. It was actually Craigslist. Like, hey, solar panels for free, right? So they can call me and I'm like, we'll get you hooked up.
Mhm.
This guy called me. He was in Mexico and he was in tears. The guy's like, we have no electricity in our village. It's like, I really need those solar panels. And man, I started to cry. And so that from that day forward, I said, I'm going to start working on infrastructure in places where they need it the most.
Mhm.
And, just thinking about all the different needs. So we have a lot of different charities and nonprofits that we have on our radar, things that are important to us. That's my why. I want to start to move capital at a scale where we can start to make an impact and things that are important to us all over the planet, not just in the United States. But that's my why, man. I've reached the point to where fancy cars and shiny things. I don't own a Rolex.
Mhm.
Those things are so insignificant to me. I want to be able to scale this thing up, make a large volume of capital, so that I can move it into things that are important, that would reach far beyond like the people that I know, like my immediate sphere of influence.
Yeah.
That's my why.
That's awesome. How about you?
For me, is more of the on the information side. I think one of the big reasons why I dove so hard into the podcast side is because there's no readily information about land in general, and I think it's you don't know the impact you can make over a lifetime of just producing content.
Mhm.
Um, and like I said, one of the other reasons why I love just creating is I can't have my daughter's 6 and 4, and I have a son who's 3. I can't have these conversations with them right now, so I wanna have and record this information for them and other generations to listen to forever. I don't know what the future holds, but hopefully this information will be out there for a very long time and people
Mhm.
can learn and start taking action, and it's evergreen. That's why I love doing stuff like this. It's evergreen content. So you don't necessarily know the impact and influence you have on communities that you never speak to. And I think you understand that most
Yeah.
after doing this for 5 years. You don't know you don't know the really true impact you make just by providing the information.
Mhm.
So he's more on like providing the physical stuff. I'm more on like the information side of let's make this information readily available. That way we can make a large impact in this untapped resource of a blue ocean of land.
Yeah.
If I could add a 2.0, kind of what he said, and something too that's been real heavy on my heart, is that we grew up super, super poor, man. Like, and a lot of people have that story, right? That background. We had to live with family a couple times growing up. It's like my dad didn't have land.
Mhm.
His dad didn't have land, right? So a lot of the land that we're finding, these big tracts that are like 500 acres, 1,000 acres, it's been concentrated only to a handful of families.
Mhm.
And so that leaves a lot of other people that were disadvantaged that never had the opportunity to have land. So with what we're doing, we're breaking generational curses over
Mhm.
and over and over again for a living. So that's something that I'm furious about. Like this best kept secret.
Mhm.
If this was out into the public a long time ago, then maybe my family and generations prior, wouldn't have to go through that. So for us to be able to break generational curses for people at scale, it's like, dude, count me in. Like I'm at war. Like I
Yeah.
said, people have been telling us like, you guys need to keep it down about lands. Like, man, I'm not going to be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something that really, really drives me, man. Is I want this opportunity to be afforded to everybody that's willing to play the game. They don't
Yeah.
even need money.
Yeah. I think it's great. It's incredibly, incredibly powerful. What is your biggest struggle today?
Biggest struggle I think right now is personal or business. That's
Any?
um personal. I think it's always juggling work and business. I think everybody struggles with that. I love what I do because I work from home and he's on the ground running the ranches, so
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have the ability to like I pick up I pick up my daughter from school every day, and then sometimes I'm like I got a meeting I gotta go to, so I'll be right back. So I can kind of manage both. I think it's my personal struggle. And business struggle, it's just people. I think we need more people and capital,
Mm-hmm.
and we can really do some amazing things. But it's been an amazing journey from I've been an entrepreneur for 6 years now, so it's just been interesting journey and kind of growing through different struggles that you
Mhm.
have through entrepreneurship because um, you hit different levels of growth at different times, and hitting that next level and kind of breaking through those barriers has always been it's been fun. I told Anthony like I think we're hitting like newer higher levels. I'm like I don't know if it's going to be as fun as it was when we were struggling.
Yeah, the hustle's different.
The hustle's different, you know.
The hustle's
And
different. It's a lot more complicated problems with a lot more ramifications.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
risk.
Yeah, more risk. I recently read a book, and what they talk about in there is every problem you solve creates a new host of other problems,
Ooh,
Amazing.
that's
That's an
good.
amazing observation.
That's
right?
good.
And so it's like, yeah, like we solved this problem. Now we got these other problems that not as many people have solved.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's what's cool too. Like I said, like so now we're heading into these things where I'll tell you just some one of the things that I'm really focused on right now is for teenagers that are depressed that are struggling, right? Seeing suicide rates go up. So we
Mhm.
want to have like a fitness center type counseling center for those people, people that have nowhere to go, right? Like let's say like a single mother that might have an abortion. Like what if we had public housing for those people or immigrants? Things that people wouldn't have to worry
Veterans.
about where they feel like their back's against the wall. So if we're going to start to move large volumes of capital, we're going to have large amounts of tax money to dump. Let's put it into things that are important,
Yeah.
right? That more so than like, hey, look at me. Now we have 1,000 doors. Like our doors goal is 0,
Mhm.
right? But
Yeah.
through the charities and the nonprofit organizations that we want to set up, like we're going to end up with some doors as a byproduct of what we're already doing.
Yeah.
So challenges, I would say for me, it's hard. It's hard to unplug because once I get obsessed with something, like I'm not going to let go.
Mhm.
So once I get home, it's like phone off, like try to put it away. We go to dinner, put the phone away. That's something that I really struggle with is being able to unplug from my business because I love it. I joke, I say I don't have any hobbies, right? So I work out and I work, and that's about it. But business wise, I think just capital, man. Right now, our lead generation is working too tremendously, right? So if we're going to continue to grow and scale, then that need for capital is going to be ongoing forever. So even after we raise 100 million, like let's do another round
Yeah.
because the lead flow is there. So
Yeah.
those are the two challenges that I can think of. First things first.
Yeah. And I definitely resonate with that, right? The how do you unplug? Because this is fun.
Ask her, dude. Ask her.
Yeah.
It's hard to unplug, man. It
Yeah.
really
This
is.
is fun. We're playing. This isn't work.
I love the game more than anything, man.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. I don't feel like, oh God, another day of work. Like
Mhm.
I'm in it to win it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your superpower?
Mine, man, I have to tell you, it's just brute strength, right? And then being able to foresee the future.
Mhm.
So once I have a vision and I know I'm going to like something that I'm going to focus on, I don't worry about the 99% of what else needs to happen until
Mhm.
I get there. Like I'll put in the hours, like physical pain and
Mhm.
torture. I'm going to make it happen no matter what. So I think it's being able to power through challenges, making sure that like all the little things that come along the way, like those like insignificant, I'm still going. And sometimes it is very painful to put in the hours and have the focus. But it's
Mhm.
just whatever I lack in intelligence, I think it's just brute strength, man. Being
Yeah.
able to see something through no matter what happens and being able to go through that pain and those challenges no matter what.
Yeah. You're gonna make it happen. How about you?
I think my superpower is it's to take large amounts of information and extract what's pertaining to me.
Mhm.
He has a way of distilling down large volumes of information into like 2 sentences.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird because I listen to like somebody whole speak, and it's a lot of people they throw a lot of fluff into their book or their blog or their whole podcast
Mhm.
episode, and then like what are the action items for this thing that I read or listened to, and what am I gonna do with it? So I have like an ability to pull and extract a paragraph, and we're gonna implement it today,
Mhm.
and that's my superpower.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that. I like to think I have the same one. And the biggest challenge is listening through someone's endless BS to get,
That one thing,
yeah.
that one thing, it's so crazy because I'm like, I listened to like hours, and I'm like, "Oop, that was it. I'm good. Let's go."
Yeah.
The Grant Cardone book, like the book could have been a sentence long.
Yeah,
That
like
would've
why
been
can't
great.
you just like what was the point of all these other things?
But like, and I get it too because I think information is meant for people in different stages. So
Mhm.
like, if you're reading a book about business and you've never experienced in business, everything's gonna be like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Mhm.
But like people that have been in business for 10 years, they're looking at that book completely different because they need to understand that lesson that a 10-year business owner understands. So
Mhm.
they're waiting for that one nugget to come across and like, ooh, that was it. Thank you. Everything else was fluff because I already experienced it
Yeah.
hands on.
Expression I heard recently, apparently or supposedly, it's a Chinese. I can't think of the word right. It's Confucius saying something along those lines. But a man never crosses the same river twice,
Mhm.
Mm.
right? Because he's a different man and it's a different river,
Amazing, yeah.
right? So it
Love
doesn't
that.
matter how many times he's gone across it. So, kind
That's
of
it.
what you were saying there. So what book have you gifted more than any other?
Book, I am not a reader. I'm not a reader at all.
Podcast, audiobook.
Um, I read Hormozy's book. It was a really I read it once and
Which one?
the first one. I haven't read the second one yet.
$100 million offers.
Yeah. So I read that whole book and it's funny because like I read the whole book and everybody's like there's no like there's a lot of like action items, but he really doesn't say what the thing he did was.
Mhm.
And I pulled out of that whole book, here's what he did. And then he says it in $100 million leads what he
Mhm.
did. And I already had extracted it from his first book, even
Mhm.
though he never said it.
Yeah, gotcha. So
It's
hun-
$100 million leads or $100 million
Offers.
offers. That's good.
In the spirit of being a Gemini, can I get two?
sure.
One is the power of now,
hmm
right? I was going through a dark time in my life when I came across that book, and I think that text is probably like the single most powerful thing I ever come across. To like, no matter where you are in your life, like if you just stop worrying about what happened before and what's going to happen into the future, you can concentrate all of your energy and power into that moment and just stay there, and then everything becomes super easy. So I think that one for one.
How's that, or why is that the case?
Because if you think about it, right, just like psychologically, if you're thinking about like the past, you end up depressed because you wish you could do things different or you wish you would have made different choices.
Mhm.
And if you're always thinking about the future, you're anxious of the future, of what's going to happen, what could go wrong, right? Because we're trained to like outrun T-Rexes, right? So you don't die.
Right.
So we're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. But if you can remove all that stuff, right, and be like in the presence of God, right, like in the Bible, or right, be with yourself or the power, whatever it is. If you can concentrate all of that effort into that one space, I think you become ultra powerful because you're not like watering yourself down into the past and into the future.
Yeah.
So that book, right, that really hit home with me. So I got into like real heavy into prayer and meditation, right, to just be able to sit still and work through things. And I've noticed that after I come out of these sessions, right, whether it's 10 or 40 minutes, right, we have a 10 commandments for our group, and part of it is meditation and prayer. Because I feel like if you reach down into that higher self, no matter what, you can have this problem that you've been chewing on for like 3 to 6 months. And then you come out of a 40-minute prayer session and you just solved it all without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's powerful. I think people should tap into that more often. I think it should be brought up more in business because we want the practical steps. We want to read books and we want to watch shows and we want more knowledge. But sometimes the removal of knowledge, right, is where the magic is. And the removal of information is where the magic is. And I'm real heavy into that.
Gotcha.
And then the second one, I'm going to say it wrong. Is that the Tao Te Ching, right? That's probably one that I've recommended more than anything. And I myself found an audio on YouTube and I've probably listened to it like 200 times.
Gotcha.
So whenever the storm does hit me, right, and you're like, dang, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from here. I'll just put on that audio and I'll listen to it for like 3 days straight.
Really?
I'm at the gym listening to it. I'm driving around. I'm at the beach listening to it, like just with my headphones on, nonstop. And again, I think it brings me back to center again to like say, don't worry about it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen with or without your participation. So something I say like is when you run into like a personal or business challenge, right, you can stress about it, but you're still going to get the same result. Probably going to get a similar result with or without your stress participation.
Exactly.
So that's something that I really pay attention to is like just when things seem like a storm is coming, right, just calm down and relax and things are probably going to work out in your favor because they normally always do.
Yeah.
And then removing that stress makes you more powerful because now you're not losing that 10 or 20% energy drain from not being able to focus. So that's it. So I wish I had more like practical business books.
No, I mean, those
but
two
that's
books
it.
are, and I think they're very similar, right?
Yeah.
Because we had Larry Yashin show. He talked about like, if you worry about the past, it's anxiety or anger, and you worry about the future is worry. Neither of which help you, right? And then that Tao Te Ching, I haven't read it yet. It's on my kitchen counter, right? Like someone told me to read it. It's like, okay, so I bought it, and it's just sitting in the kitchen counter. So I got to pull it out and read it. But I mean, there's a lot of power in knowing that if you just focus on what's at hand, because that's the only thing you can control, and give yourself permission to not worry about the other things. But for most people, it's really hard to do.
It's so easy to get caught up in everything that's going on around us, right? The information age, when we're supposed to become smarter and wealthier than ever, people actually get consumed by the information, right? You spend too much of your focus and your time and energy, and you distribute them all into all these different things, sports and the kids and the wife and the family and social media. So when you think about it, there's nothing left of you,
Right.
right? So I think when you spend that time with God or higher power, whatever it is, then you go inside yourself and you can commune with God. I'll just give you one quick example.
Sure.
It was I think it was like Dan Rather's, one of those famous guys, and he's interviewing Mother Teresa, and he said, what do you say when you talk to God? And she said, nothing. I just listen.
Yeah.
And then he said, oh, that's interesting. What does God say? And she said, nothing. He just listens. And again, one of those boom epiphany moments where like, wow, really spending that time in silence and that communing with yourself, with your higher power, that's where everything lies. And there's not an instruction manual, right? So God's not out there giving you like the whole Bible. But if you distill the whole Bible down, right, and a lot of spiritual texts, right? So I prefer the Bible, but they're all saying a very similar thing, is that if you distill all that information down into nothing, it's just being where you are, being in that present moment, and having that communion with God or the higher power, and that's where everything lies. That's where you can create worlds.
Yep. What are some last thoughts you'd like to leave all the listeners with?
Again, for me, something that I'm going to probably harp on for the rest of my life now is if you intend to do real estate or business and invest your own capital, it's going to be a long, sad road, and you might end up dying broke. I think everybody should immediately get good at raising capital and make that your central point of focus, and then you could just point that at any good business model, and I think that's the quickest path to wealth.
I think being open-minded. A lot of people, they get stuck in this rut that they think they're doing the right thing, and that's the only way to get results. And I think we've gotten a lot further than a lot of other people in a short amount of time because we're open-minded. I don't know it all, and I don't presume to know it all, but I've learned from a lot of different people and strategies and different things that I've implemented that's created this hybrid model of what we do. And I think it's just being open-minded and to what's out there, because you may think you know it all, but there's things that you don't even understand.
Yeah. Every time we think we hit a new level, we meet somebody else and we're like back to elementary school. So I think we probably are the most open-minded entrepreneurs in the country because we don't think we know it all. As soon as we meet somebody new that has great information, we immediately incorporate that into our brand and into our model, and we run with it.
Yeah, humility and coachability. I mean, I think those are two and they're one and the same, but it's such an important attribute because the thing that can turn me off more than anything else when I meet someone new is if they have it all figured out. Like, okay,
oh man, you give them a nugget and then they got an answer for you right away. Like, dang, this isn't gonna go good.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm not gonna spend any more time with you because there's just nothing good can come from this relationship. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Daniel Hivemind on Instagram. I'm on Twitter a lot. I enjoy Twitter. Twitter's fun. But yeah, that's probably the best place.
How about yourself?
Simply, man, I prefer like a Facebook Messenger. I'm on there a lot. So I think that's probably the easiest place to get a hold of me. And it might take me a little bit to get back a couple of days, but I try to answer everybody. And then if you see me on social media, like on Instagram or on Facebook or any of those, I try to reply to every single comment, like even if I reply a month later. So if somebody just reaches out through one of those public channels, then I'll get back for sure. But I don't have like a website or anything like that. That is my go-to.
All right, perfect. All right, well, thank you so much.
Dude, thanks for having us, man. Yeah, this is like one of our life accomplishments, dude. So
I'm happy.
I feel like we owe it in large part to you, man, because you put the show out, you put the good information into the universe, and it fell on our ears, and here we are now, man. So
I mean, it's the same thing you were saying earlier. You're welcome. It was the same thing you were saying earlier, right? Like each one teach one. It's that ability to pay it forward because you don't know who might impact what changes it's going to make.
I think the waves that you're making on the planet and in the universe, man, with what you've created is just like I can't thank you enough, dude. And even just for ourselves, the way things have gone, like I can imagine all the other people that you've impacted, and it's just
Yeah.
like just to even think about it, it's amazing, just beautiful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you for coming on. We'll see you guys next
Shout
time.
out to Steve Train. Jump on the Steve Train. We real estate disruptors.